Good afternoon, Council, members of the public. I'm calling to order our Council meeting of February 2, 2026, and we'll start by standing for our national anthem. Deputy Mayor Fryer is now going to read the land acknowledgement.
For more than 15,000 years, the First Nations walked upon and cared for the lands we now call home. Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe, and many others who were families, friends, and communities the way we are today. The town of Collingwood acknowledges the Lake Simcoe-Nottawasaga Treaty of 1818 and the relationships it establishes with the original inhabitants of Turtle Island. We acknowledge the reality of our shared history and the current and future contributions of Indigenous people within our community. We seek to continue empowering expressions of pride amongst all of the diverse rights holders in this area. We seek to do better and to continue to recognize, learn, and grow in friendship and community, nation to nation.
Thank you. The first motion before us this afternoon is this, that the content of the Council Committee of the Whole agenda for February 2, 2026 be adopted as amended. There's 3 amendments. The first one, addition of item 11.3, cold weather, clear roads in Collingwood video. Secondly, addition of the staff report for item 15.2.1, proposed BIA boundary expansion. And 3, addition of item 15.2.3, transit update. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Ring, seconded by Councillor Potts. Any comments, changes? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest today, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. And from a previous declaration when 401 Raglan came to the public meeting stage, agenda item 15.2.2, which is P 2026-03, proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 401 Raglan Street. I have a non-pecuniary code of conduct disqualifying interest as the east side of proposed severed lot abuts my father-in-law's property at 80 Sir Sanford Fleming Drive. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others? If you find yourself in that position during the meeting, please let me know at that time. Now we'll start with community announcements and Deputy Mayor Fryer.
So I want to mention that there's a blood donor clinic at the Legion on next Wednesday, February 11th, with time slots still needing to be filled. Canadian Blood Services continues to issue urgent calls for donors as Ontario's supply remains under strain. The holiday period and weather cancellations of planned blood collections are contributing factors. So please, if able, try to find a time slot that can work for you. I also wanted to provide a reminder that Collingwood is currently accepting applications for various volunteer board and committees up until March the 1st. To apply, just use the vacancies tab on the Collingwood committee and board webpage. It is for those that have residential property in Collingwood, and more info can be obtained from clerk at collingwood.ca or by calling 445-1030. And those were what I had, Mayor Hamlin. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffrey?
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. I want to take a moment and congratulate the Royal Canadian Legion on a really successful resurrected Robbie Burns dinner. It was sold out, and Chair Dunk Hawkins and his team did a fabulous job. So it was really nice to see that being celebrated again. And then just wanted to talk about Theatre Collingwood, their upcoming production and theme of Valentine's Day. They're presenting Love Letters at the Simcoe Theatre. There's 3 shows, Friday at 7:30, Saturday at 2 p.m., and Saturday also at 7:30. And they're featuring 2 local talents in each show, Dean Holland, Tara Kivlichin, Chelsea Coulter, John Knox, Jake MacArthur, and I hope I pronounced this right, Shirley Joost. And so be something fun to check out for Valentine's weekend. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Potts?
Thanks, Mayor Hamlin. From the BIA, the Art on the Street returns, so a call to the artists. It's a celebration of artists and artwork in downtown Collingwood. So Art on the Street is back, bringing creativity, color, and community spirit to the heart of downtown Collingwood. This year, the downtown core will once again be brightened by vibrant art banners on the light poles and the return of the popular art chairs. The art chairs will be showcased in key public spaces throughout the downtown, while the art banners will line the streets with original works across a wide range of mediums. The 2026 program launches on the May long weekend and will remain on display throughout the spring, summer, and fall, concluding on Thanksgiving weekend. The Town of Collingwood and the Collingwood BIA invite visual artists to submit their designs and images for Art on the Street 2026. There is no fee to enter, and all submissions will be reviewed by a jury panel based on creativity, originality, and artistic balance. Complete details and applications for both the art chair and art banner submissions are available at www.collingwooddowntown.com or by contacting arts and culture at collingwood.ca. And just a note that the deadline for submissions for both banners and chairs is March 6th, 2026. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Ring?
Thank you very much, Mayor Hamlin. On Thursday, January 29th, along with yourself, Mayor Hamlin, Councillors Potts and Perry, I attended the rescheduling flag raising from the January 15th at the Collingwood Public Library, which was to commemorate Crime Stoppers Month. This past Saturday, January 31st, I had the pleasure of attending the Special Olympics Choice to Include campaign at both Hume Street and Poplar Side Road Tim Hortons. A limited edition Special Olympic donut was being sold, with the proceeds going to Special Olympics. It is always great to meet with the athletes because their enthusiasm is infectious. A big shout out must go to our local Tim Hortons for all they do to support these Special Olympic athletes. Tomorrow, February 3rd, 11 a.m. at the Collingwood Public Library, it will be my pleasure to attend the flag raising, which will kick off Black History Month. The public is welcome, so I would encourage everyone to attend. And that's my announcement.
Thank you. Councillor Baines?
Thank you. The latest edition of the Escarpment magazine features a podcast script by Ken Mahar called The Three Sisters. The article focuses on the history of the Huronic, Collingwood's first steel ship, the Humonic, and the Noronic. This 6-page spread also includes historic photographs from Collingwood's museum collection. Now, if you don't know Ken Mahar and you're into Collingwood's history, you should. He is now into his 5th year of doing these podcasts about Collingwood's past. Indeed, he's done about 74-ish episodes at this point and have been listened to 8,269 times. So if you haven't listened to it, you should log on and listen to Ken's podcast. Now, if you are looking for work, particularly with the museum, there are 3 vacancies at this point. 1 in the collections support of the museum, a seasonal position, and 2 seasonal student programmers. If you want more information about this, contact anyone at the museum. Go on their website or go on the Collingwood website as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Perry?
Thanks, Mayor Hamlin. The library walls are adorned with quilts for January and February as part of the art exhibit So Fabulous by the Slope to Shore Quilters Guild. A wide range of styles and techniques are showcased in this display, including jackets, wall hangings, and bed quilts. come view these spectacular creations while you have the chance. And I can vouch for them because Mayor Hamlin and I were admiring them at the flag raising for Crime Stoppers last week. So they're amazing.
Yeah, sure are. Councillor McCulloch?
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just mention that on February 5th to 8, our curling club is hosting the mixed doubles provincial championships, which I'll go and say a few words at the beginning. And these things are on my mind, particularly as we head into the Olympics this week. And the championships, the provincial championships, as you might imagine, help determine who the national team will be in the national representatives. So this will be a very exciting mixed doubles event. And in looking up this event, I came to realize, little known fact for me anyway, that curling has been a very active sport in Collingwood since 1881 when it was played on the bay. Imagine how cold that was. And then my second announcement is a public service announcement that the town is hosting a job and career fair next Monday, that's the 9th, at the library, 3rd floor, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And for anyone who may be looking for a job now or in the future, please come along, learn about our staff, the culture, and you can even schedule an interview there or make an appointment for one at a future date. All right, next we'll move into our deputations. The 3 today have to do with the proposed expansion to the BIA boundary. And the first person who will address council is Dr. Shelley Adams. Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. My name is Dr. Shelley Adams, and I'm the owner and practitioner at Mountain Chiropractic and Natural Health on Market Street. When I received the letter that my business was being included in the Market Street, in the proposal of the expansion of the BIA, I was quite distressed because I feel I don't really work in much of a business community. I'm kind of in a remote area. When I was interviewed by the paper, the person who interviewed me said, with regard to the process, how do you feel the communication was? It's well interesting. I never really thought about it, but we did receive a letter. And in the letter, it doesn't actually say in the letter how much it's going to be to join the BIA, and only that if you approve, that you do not need to respond at all. Or if you don't approve, you do need to respond to the clerk of the town. So one of my concerns here is that this day and age where we consent to absolutely everything, we consent to having our photos taken, we consent to getting emails, that is implied consent from all of these businesses that they actually approve, even if the town never heard back from them from receiving the letter. So if we're basing this moving forward based on how many people objected and how many people approved, do we actually know how many people were in approval versus just those who object? With research, quickly information I was looking for was provided to me, and I learned that the BIA levy was going to be added to my taxes was approximately $1,000 a year. It's like $10,000 in 10 years of university or education, vacation, my own self-funded retirement fund. I happen to own a very busy and successful business, and since COVID, I've never invested anything formally in marketing. We have happy patients that give referrals, Google reviews, and the only thing I've spent money on for marketing is sponsoring youth sports. It's my understanding that the BIA does promote tourists. Tourists, unfortunately, are not our ideal clients. They come 1 or 2 times. We invest a lot of time and effort making files and their insurance, blah, blah, and then we never come back for 10 years, and we need to store their chart for this long. So not our ideal clients for any type of professional healthcare business like myself. Before I had a printed list of the businesses that were in the proposed expansion, and it was provided when I asked, I was cold calling places to find out, because I couldn't figure out who was actually on the list. The map was rather vague that we were given. I did call a few places and there was mixed reviews. Spoke to the owner of a boutique hotel downtown who was very happy. Thought it was a great thing for her business. They promoted them a lot. I spoke to chiropractic office. He said he'd be very happy to chat with me, because this was via email, to talk about the complete unmitigated disaster it had been since he'd been forced to join in 2012. Another business I spoke to was a woman on 4th Street, and then this was before I actually knew who was actually on the list. And she said that she would support the opposition, wondering how it helped her business in her neighborhood, only to find out later that she wasn't actually on the list. She was actually currently in the BIA zoning right now. She realized their taxes were actually much higher than she maybe would have expected where she was, and that was likely why it was. So obviously, she didn't feel she was benefiting or noticing. This weekend, I work on a very small street that is only 2 blocks long. It is not busy. There's not a whole lot of traffic going by there. This weekend, I asked one of my staff to go on a field trip from work, walk 1 block in every direction of my office to count the visible businesses. He counted 1 visible business on Market Street, which is my own. Baymount Plumbing is quite hiding and they don't even have a sign, so they're not likely getting benefit from traffic or traction here. There's 3 businesses on 4th Street within 1 block of my office and 33 properties. So simple math says to me that this is 18% commercial use within the 1 block radius of my office, 82% residential. In the time that I've been there, I've only noticed 1 new business between 4th Street and the 2 blocks away of Market Street, which is Be Well. So that's 1 new business in 12.5 years. So it's definitely not an expanding, booming part of town at this point. So I think it's safe to assume that it's going to be a while before we're in a vibrant business community. Through my process, I heard objections from various places in various areas of town. Remax, Proactive Pilates, Conley Eye Care on 1st Street, obviously Baymount Plumbing next to me, 120 Hume Street, the vacant lot. I spoke to the owner of Tony's Iron Skillet. Now, what I didn't know is that she was going to be, that she's not going to be, like they're shutting down the lease in the middle of the month. So she didn't even, or the middle of June. So she didn't even know if that their building was included. She hadn't heard anything about it. And then we had some discussion whether her restaurant would be a good fit or not. And she wasn't quite sure being as far away as she was, but that is one of the proposed properties. Farm Boy is not even open. It's very hard to talk to anybody within corporate Sobeys to find out if they're actually approving or not. I will say I've been to many downtown events. I've quite enjoyed myself, sat in the chairs. My kids have played the piano, taken advantage of the beauty of all the flowers. But currently, none of this exists for the 4th Street businesses right now. And I think we're a long time before we're going to expect to see it on Market Street. So in conclusion, I don't know at this point in time if we can totally shut this down, but it is my hope that we could actually put off the expansion to my area of the neck of the woods until such time we actually have much business going on my street. Thank you.
Thank you. The next deputation is from Jim Hartman and Mark Palmer. Or maybe just Jim Hartman.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mayor Hamlin and Collingwood Town Council. My name is Jim Hartman, and I'm here along with Mark and Jane Palmer, representing 255-4281 Ontario Limited, the registered owner of 121 Hume Street in Collingwood. We're here today to provide a deputation to council in response to the town's notice of intention dated 21 November 2025 to expand the Collingwood downtown business improvement area. Our request today is that council exclude 121 Hume Street from the expanded BIA boundary. Alternatively, we ask council to defer the expansion bylaw and revise the boundary so it aligns with areas that receive direct BIA benefits. Council should be aware that the owners of 121 Hume Street have submitted their formal written objection to proposed BIA exemption, and specifically with respect to inclusion of 121 Hume Street within the expanded BIA boundary. The written objection has fulfilled all the requirements in accordance with the notice. To that end, we understand over half the properties in the expanded BIA have also objected. I'd like to start with some context for our objection as it relates to the planning history for the property. For council's benefit, the property at 121 Hume Street is subject to site plan approval, which was issued by the town in August of 2022, and this approval was extended for another 2 years in August 2024. Throughout the original SPA process, as well as the following 2-year extension period and consultations thereafter, there was no indication that the proposed BIA boundary expansion was contemplated to include our property. Our investment, design, and financial planning were undertaken in good faith with reliance on the planning and taxation framework in place at that time. Introducing a new BIA levy after SPA approval adds an ongoing cost that was not contemplated during the planning for the 121 Hume Street project, and it could materially affect tenant occupancy and the project's operating assumptions. We are asking Council not to apply a new levy to a project that was approved under a different cost framework without a clear prospective rationale communicated during approvals. In our objection, we identified a number of reasons why we do not believe the BIA levy should be applied to 121 Hume Street property, which I'll highlight here. The owners of 121 Hume Street are of the opinion that there is no apparent alignment between the proposed property use and the purpose of the BIA expansion. In particular, the approved development at 121 Hume Street will be a mixed-use building with only professional office space at grade and residential units above. There's no planned retail, restaurant, or tourism-oriented Main Street business at the site. Typical BIA activities such as retail marketing, festivals and events, streetscape initiatives targeted to core shopping streets, and tourism promotion primarily benefit retail and hospitality uses. For example, if BIA dollars go to retail promotions, festivals, or streetscape enhancements focused on core shopping streets, these dollars will benefit storefront sales and foot traffic, but it does not translate into a practical benefit for professional office tenants or residential occupants at 121 Hume Street. Applying a BIA levy to 121 Hume Street would therefore be misaligned with the services and benefits the BIA is designed to deliver and would effectively require this property to subsidize programs from which it cannot practically benefit. We believe that the location of the property is on the fringe of the BIA retail core. 121 Hume Street is situated on a fringe section of Hume Street outside the traditional core of the downtown shopping district, which limited pedestrian-oriented retail activity compared to the main retail streets. BIA events, promotions, and improvements are likely to remain concentrated in the established core, and as a result, there is no tangible benefit that would extend to the 121 Hume Street location. We believe that the additional levy applied by the town to the property to support the BIA will impact the property's competitiveness and ability to attract commercial tenants. Specifically, inclusion in the BIA would impose an additional levy on top of existing property taxes for the owner and as applicable future commercial tenants. Professional office tenants are typically cost sensitive, and even a modest additional levy can influence location decisions where there is no corresponding service benefit. Comparable office locations just outside the proposed boundary would not be subject to this cost, placing 121 Hume Street at a competitive disadvantage, potentially discouraging tenancy and affecting the project's lease-up and long-term viability. This outcome would be counterproductive to the town's broader planning objectives of encouraging appropriate mixed-use development, employment, and housing in this area of the town. In conclusion, from the perspective of the owners of 121 Hume Street, we support the revitalization and success of downtown Collingwood in principle. We recognize the value of a strong BIA focused on the core retail and hospitality area. However, the proposed BIA expansion risks being perceived as revenue-driven rather than benefit-driven, given the fringe location and non-retail nature of the 121 Hume Street project and its application to it. For this reason, we respectfully object to the proposed BIA boundary expansion as it relates to 121 Hume Street, and we ask Council to exclude 121 Hume Street from the expanded BIA boundary. We also suggest the BIA boundary should be targeted, transparent, and tied to demonstrable benefits for included properties. Thank you.
Thank you. And the third deputation is the BIA Board Chair, Sarah Pennell.
Hi, I'm Sarah Pennell. I've been the chair of the board for the last 4 years here and director on it for 2 leading up to that. A lot of people assume that a business improvement area or BIA is for shops and restaurants. The truth is that non-retailers often benefit just as much, if not more. A strong BIA makes the entire district more attractive. It makes it more functional, more valuable. That benefits every type of business, from law firms to tech companies to health and wellness clinics. The goal of the BIA is simple. It's to strengthen and enhance the entire district so every business, retailers and non-retailers, benefit from a cleaner, a safer, more vibrant district. It's more economically resilient. As our community grows, the boundaries that were set years ago no longer reflect where business activity is actually happening. Expanding the BIA allows us to support the full district that people already experience as one connected area. So what's this expansion mean? It means a stronger business environment. The BIA invests in beautification, in maintenance, and safety initiatives, public realm improvements that make the district more attractive for employees, for clients and visitors, for those that live there as well. These improvements raise the overall appeal and competitiveness of the area. This expansion means a unified voice. The BIA advocates on behalf of its members on issues like infrastructure, like parking developments, planning, and safety. This is done at the municipal level through your local BIA, but also at the provincial level through our involvement and collaboration with the Ontario BIA Association. It means support for businesses and property values. A well-managed district attracts investments. It reduces vacancies. It strengthens the long-term value of commercial properties. Every business that don't rely on foot traffic benefits from being located in a thriving, well-maintained area. It means access to programs and opportunities. The members gain access to BIA-supported initiatives, such as public realm improvements, decor programs, safety enhancements, marketing campaigns, and events that elevate the profile of the entire area. We understand that this expansion represents a change, and change is scary. Change is also needed for growth. Our intention is to create a more cohesive, supportive, and successful district, one where every business benefits from the shared investments and coordinated advocacy. A BIA is about creating a thriving, attractive, well-managed district that supports every type of business. All businesses benefit through an improved environment, stronger advocacy, better employee experience, and an increased long-term value. Steve Asoff is a current property owner, and his building is in the proposed expansion on Huron Street. He said it quite well. I believe that anything we can do to strengthen the downtown BIA will be good for our town in general. We think a healthy, vibrant downtown core is great for the entire town. We couldn't agree with Steve more. At this time, I would like to ask council to defer their decision so that we can bring the staff report back to the board at our upcoming meetings. It was only released on Friday and we haven't had a chance to discuss it at that level. I would also like to take the information from these previous deputations back to the board so we can discuss things as a cohesive unit. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, everyone, for outlining your positions on this. I just have a quick question for the clerk, and then I'll come back to you. I'm just wondering, in terms of a deferral, does this, relate to the staff report? And so we would deal with it when we come to that item? Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Hamlin. That was half of my question.
Okay.
So when it comes to the staff report, are we still going to have an opportunity to have a discussion here? Because there are some comments and questions that I do want to make later on in the committee portion of it.
That'll be up to council.
That's right. But okay. Yep. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So we won't decide that until later in the agenda. About the deferral request when we're dealing with the staff report. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a motion to deal with council minutes, and the motion is that the minutes of Council Committee of the Whole meeting held January 19, 2026, excluding Committee of the Whole recommendations, and Council meeting held January 26, 2026, be approved as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor McCulloch. Any comments here? All those in favor? And that would be unanimous. Is there any business arising from the previous minutes? Okay, I see none. And the next motion, the recommendation is that the Committee of the Whole recommendations from its meeting held January 19, 2026 be hereby approved as presented. And the item is reports and minutes of other committees and boards. Mover and a seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Fryer, seconded by Councillor Jeffrey. Any comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. We have 3 departmental updates this afternoon. For the first one, I'll call on Director Okoka and Manager Caden. We're going to hear a progress report on the water treatment plant expansion. Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I call on Manager Caden. The water treatment plan is a very important project to us.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm just here with an update on our water treatment plant progress to date and some highlights for you. Next slide, please. I forgot to say that before. So just a few photos so you can see some of the production from behind the fences. We take an aerial shot every month, weather permitting. On the left is an aerial shot showing the completed shoreline works. A couple other things to highlight in the sort of middle of the screen, top right, there's a horseshoe driveway. In the center of that is our new temporary IPS structure, allowing us to proceed with demolition. You'll now notice behind the existing plant, the old 1950s era plant is no longer there, and there's a drill rig in its place, kind of in the middle of the screen, the green drill rig that's there. The photo to the right, that piece of pipe was removed from our intake pipe to allow us to construct a bypass chamber and create some redundancy as part of the new plant. Right now, we have one line out into the lake, directly into the plant, somewhat concerning in progressing forward. So we're setting ourselves up for a duplicate. And this involved a full shutdown of the plant, turning it off for the length of a day. This was one of those on the calendar marked events, very stressful for all of us involved. With all the planning from our contractor and our consultant, couldn't have gone smoother. It was actually a whole lot of setup and tear down for a very short activity. So went very well. Next slide, please. On the left-hand side, you'll see a valve being removed. Again, thanks to the removal of that section of pipe in the previous photo, this allows us to decommission some lines that are underground in the area of where the new plant will be constructed. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the pile of debris left over after the demolition of that 1950s era original water treatment plant. And this will be the location of the new plant itself. So since the start, other than the shoreline and lots of underground pipe works, we've commissioned and put into service the temporary industrial pumping station. The existing one was located in the old plant, which was demolished. This temporary facility allows us to continue to provide untreated filtered lake water from to local industries. They use it for production, fire protection, and other services where potable water is not required. It's a good green initiative, something kind of unique to Collingwood. We should be pretty proud of. Work continues to proceed with drilling of the caissons. Some of that is structural. Some of that is to allow us to excavate next to the lake and not flood out ourselves. Temporary frazzle ice system has been installed and commissioned. Commissioning is ongoing. The system is available to operators to use if we do have a freeze up at the end of our intake pipe that allows us to dislodge ice from there and continue operation. We've had a lot of hydro feed upgrades. EPCOR has been involved, helping us to prepare for the new facility, and of course the demolition of the new or the old existing plant. Next slide, please. One green initiative I wanted to bring to your attention, just that we're pretty proud of. To date, we have diverted over 97% of construction waste from landfill. We put a 50% target as a minimum in our specs for our contractor, with a bonus being paid out if they were to hit 75. And so far, they've overshot that substantially. It's been a nice success story and a good practice for future projects that we'll implement going forward. Most of the diversion to date has been the materials listed there: wood, cardboard, metal, concrete. Next slide, please. All right, now we get into the slightly uncomfortable scenario. We are unfortunately about 8 months behind schedule. We've had some schedule slippage due to a little bit of overcomplication in some of that pipe removal work that we were planning for, as well as the work of the caissons and the drill rigs has not gone as quickly as we could have hoped. we've had some equipment breakdowns that just can't be anticipated due to the hardness of the rock and having to revise their strategy and some of that work. We are looking constantly at ways to improve the schedule now that we've set this up. There were no additional slippage in schedule over the last quarter. So we feel we're ahead of that, and that 8-month projection is forward through the end of the job. We'll be working with the contractor closely. It's a subject of discussion at our regular biweekly construction meetings of how to expedite the schedule. And now that we're into excavation and concrete work, which is done by the contractor's own forces as opposed to a union subcontractor, they have a little more control over length of work days and things like that to try and gain some schedule back. So we're hopeful, but just to make you aware of that. Next slide, please. This is a quick budget update to date. We've spent about a little over 18% of the original budget. And obviously the remaining balance of 80%-ish going forward is tracking well with our production to date. Next slide, please. Just to highlight the financial health of the remaining aspects of the project. Provisional allowance, we've only used about 15%. Contingency allowance, about 17%. The costs in those amounts spent to date have been largely to do with disposal of contaminated soils. With new regulations, the spoils from the drill rig have been deemed contaminated, and that was not anticipated at the time of tender. And going forward, the majority of that cost is disposal of materials from site. We found things buried in the shoreline when we took it apart that were not anticipated to be there, that we had to get rid of. That added cost to the project. Next slide, please. And then this is just the last promotion for the videos that we do 3 to 4 times a year, as well as the regular updates that we put on our Engage page. Photos and construction updates are all there on a regular basis if you're interested. We did have this QR code posted on the signage near the site, and during the summer months we saw well over 1,000 clicks or pass-throughs from people in the area following the link and going to the website to have a look at the project. Obviously, in the winter months, that's dropped way off. There's not too many people out there willing to pull their mitts off to scan the QR code, but we anticipate in the summer those numbers will jump back up again. And at this time, I'll take any questions from council.
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. And I did have some questions that I actually sent to the CAO ahead of time, unfortunately. But you did cover one of them, and thank you for the presentation and the update. Really appreciated it. You did talk about the fact that there hadn't been any slippage in the 8 months in the last quarter. Correct. Things had so it was a quarter ago that it was known it was going to be 8 months. So one of the complications with the whole thing is we do have a very strong partner in NewTek in the situation. So they have some pretty immediate needs from what I understand down south. So I wondered about the whole fact of the contract and the final deadline of the contract. Is there any kind of penalty? You talked about the 97% non-disposed circulation, and how the goal had been 50 and a bonus for 75%. Is there any kind of penalty situation developing if it does go over the original forecasted date for completion?
So a couple of things on that. So we have regular quarterly meetings with some of the senior staff from New Tecumseh, from operations, from our contractor and our consultant, and we do bring up schedule and construction activities at those meetings. So they've been well aware of our challenges with some of the drilling, and they've been aware of the change in schedule for the last 8 months or so. So since our Q3 quarterly update meeting, which was back in 25. As far as penalties going forward for completion, there's nothing in our contract that I'm aware of, and I'll defer to Jennifer Graham if there's anything specific in that with New Tech that they would be able to come to us if we are late in delivering. The contract does include liquidated damages with our contractor on site, which we can explore as we get closer to the end of the project. At this point, not really. And then to satisfy New Tech's demand, we do still plan to have the additional interim capacity, 5,000 cubic meters, come online in the spring of 2026, which our understanding will satisfy them until we're ready to go.
Just a follow-up, if I may, Mayor Hamlin, and that's just, I wanted to ask those questions because, as I said, we've got a very big partner with us, but it is a partner. Like New Tech is in this with us, and we're doing the project obviously because it's on our plant. But they're right in there with us. They're aware of everything, and it's a strategic partnership that's moving forward the way it needs to move forward. And just want to make sure the Collingwood public understand that yes, we have a partner, and they're part of this, and we'll be doing our best to meet all the goals of all the parties involved. So thank you very much for the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. Just a question in regard to the challenges of the hard rock, which you mentioned, which is delayed this some 6 to 8 months or so. Are there any other potential challenges like that you are aware of that could delay the project in the next number of years?
It's a construction project. If we were aware of them all, we could plan for them all. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We do our best to foresee a lot of that. The one real challenging aspect was the removal of that piece of pipe, and we over planned for that one, and it went off, I will say now, without a hitch. Are there other challenges once we get into it? The big ones come from the unknowns of excavation. And we've done enough borehole drilling and everything else to hopefully know what we're getting into with that. The rock challenges is when we did those boreholes, you drill to refusal, and where we have to drill as part of construction is beyond that, and that's been where we've hit our challenge.
Thanks. Some of, our development community, of course, watches our water supply quite closely. And I was just wondering if you could talk a bit more about the interim water supply and how that will benefit Collingwood.
Sure. So that's we're running that as a separate project. Our current on-site constructor, Canadian, is doing the work for us. We've essentially looked at every aspect of the existing facility and what we can fast track and to basically get any last drop of water out of the existing plant as we can by making small upgrades and changes without having to do work that we throw away when the new plant is built. So part of that is we've expedited the order of some of the larger pumps that are coming. Those are part of the big plant. We're hopeful that they arrive on time. We're going to redline that plant full speed as hard as we can for the next 5 years. So we'll gain 5,000 cubic meters of production.
And the 5,000 cubic meters, that's around 5,000 homes worth of water if you were doing a really general
I'd have to
estimate.
do the math. I can't do it that quickly in my head. It would be more than that, yes. And we're splitting that with our partner in New Tech, approximately 60-40.
Okay, that's awesome. Councillor Jeffrey, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. So I think you covered a bit of my question, although I assume, and this might be through the CAO, I assume there'll be something else then coming to council in terms of the allocation going forward if we're stretching it out another 8 months. How does that whole SCAP and water allocation, and will there be another report coming back to council on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Through the chair. Yes. So with the allocation of servicing, it's water and wastewater. So what we have, we bring to council each 6 months. Actually, I think the commitment's once a year, and we've been coming once every 6 months or so. And it will look at those pieces as well, the interim water, which will be included as well. I don't believe it was noted in the last report, but it will be looking at that going forward. as we go forward, our overall caps do start to transition to wastewater and what we'll do on wastewater. So we expect that process will continue and that council will continue to get the full amounts that are available and the, how it's being metered for your review.
Through the mayor. So thank you for that. I guess my concern is specifically to the water because we've kind of been taking a number of years to go divide by 5 and spreading it through each year. And I would have assumed council might have heard a little sooner about an 8-month delay given that calculation and our factor of safety calculations and those things. That was my question. Thank you.
Yeah, do you want to add to that? I think what's important that I've understood through this is the interim water supply, which will be available in the spring, will eliminate any worries about Collingwood's need for water until the plant's completed. But could you speak to that, CAO, please?
Yes, thank you. That covers the key pieces. And I'll have to go back over the notices to council. I think that the overall delivery times have been a part of the public updates to date. That said, this is one of our major projects and it would be our intention that council be well informed about how it's going.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. It was great. The next departmental update is from Director Graham.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. I just wanted to provide some further information after last Committee of Whole Council meeting. So folks from Jasper Group, Inc., who are the design consultants for the project of the Georgian Bowl expansion, contacted Finance in October of 2025 to request an early high-level estimate of potential development charges based on limited preliminary information, including estimated square meterage and standard DC rates. The estimated was provided by Finance, noting that, of course, it was subject to change based on date of building permit issuance. Based on discussion with planning, the site plan had not yet advanced through the approvals process and remains under review with no second submission received to date. Development charges for non-residential projects are payable at the time of the building permit stage, following site plan approval and fulfillment of conditions. Under the Development Charges Act and the Town's Development Charges Bylaw, development charges are applied consistently based on legislative rates and prescribed exemptions or credits. Opportunities for reduction are very limited and typically relate to statutory exemptions such as the affordable residential units. We also offer replacement credits upon demolition, and sometimes there's timing of payment that can be addressed under Section 27 deferral agreements. I hope that was the information Council was looking for, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Potts.
Thanks, Mayor Hamlin. Thanks for that update. I guess where I was looking for information for clarification, because the letter that we had received that it was a surprise to the owners, and that there had been really, I guess, no information provided, or however that went. So, to understanding that timeline helps a little bit better. And is there the ability, say down the road, and again, this may have already been answered, but if the development were to go through, because I also think the amount of money that's being on the table right now for the charges could put the new build at jeopardy of even going forward. Do they have the ability to amortize it or over a number of years, so it's not an upfront cost that really to assist them to keep going? Thanks.
Yeah, Director Graham.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. Through you to Councillor Potts. That's a great question. You're absolutely correct. So the DC Act under Section 27 does allow council to enter into deferral agreements. So that means that they can pay in installments over 5 years. Of course, that's council needs to approve that agreement.
Yeah, and through you, Mayor Hamlin, and again, it's an option, and I think that's good. The clarification, because the way I perceived it to be was just really through the communication that they were surprised by it. So I wanted to ensure that the proper channel of information was being followed. And just one last comment I see was the last meeting when I had asked for the update to come back, originally it was going to be through a staff report. I spoke with Director Graham and had agreed on it being through a departmental update, which is fantastic. I just had a little bit of concern when it's provided through our operational update that it was before coming back transparently to the public, that I just didn't know if that was potentially a risk of doing, council business or however that would come across, discussing it with all members of council, especially when it was requested to come back as a departmental update. So I just didn't know if there was anything there. I just wanted, I guess, awareness to say that it didn't really sit that comfortable with me at that point, but I just wanted that to be on the record.
Are you suggesting that the operational update that we received from our CAO, because it mentioned this, is that the cause of your concern?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Hammond. So I think I just look at the fact when the information comes across to all members of council, it's, especially when the update was being asked to come back to a public council meeting, and then when it goes to an operational update to all members of council first, I just find that it's, in my own opinion and perspective, it's really maybe doing business outside of what was requested to come back for direction from council. That's all.
I see. Okay. Well, it's not something that frustrates me, but your vision's been heard by, or your concern's been heard by staff, so they'll take that into account. Okay. We have one more departmental update from Manager Cole, and he has a video for us.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mayor Hamlin, members of council. I'm pleased to be here today to present, or debut, if you will, a video that has been created on Collingwood's winter maintenance operations. We have coined the video as Cold Weather, Clear Roads, Collingwood. The video focuses on winter operations, provides information and tips to the public, and showcases our daily operations. If we could play the video.
Collingwood's winter season commences November 1st every year. Collingwood runs 7 plow routes, 5 sidewalk routes. Just a reminder that Collingwood's no parking bylaw does come into effect November 1st of each year, goes through to April. Other simple things like placing your garbage and recycling bins in the end of your driveway, not out on the road. Hockey nets, basketball nets, keeping them away from the travel portion of the road. Allows the operators to have the room that they need while they're out there, and it makes everyday plowing a whole lot easier.
The biggest challenge usually that we face are just cars parked on the road in our way, so slows us down. We're not able to get the road cleared properly. Another big challenge that we have are come garbage day is people putting their bins right out on the road. So again, not able to clear the road, and makes it difficult for us to get around as well.
The advice for pedestrians walking is to pay attention. Keep your head on a swivel when we've got a snowfall. Quite often you won't hear a snowplow coming or a sidewalk machine till the last minute. Everybody needs the time to move and to stay safe. There are a lot of blind spots on the trucks. You get a heavy snowfall or a snowfall early in the morning when the sun's coming up. Visibility is restricted. The guys obviously slow down, take their time, and are careful in their operations. Winter safety and winter driving is everyone's responsibility. The best thing we can do is back up, give the trucks and the equipment the room they need, and pay attention at all times on the road. Road conditions change, winds change, snowfall changes, and we all have to make our best decisions for our own safety. So I'm proud of our crew, and I'm thankful for our operators, their skills, their dedication, and the effort they bring every day to ensuring that our roads and sidewalks are safe. They're a great group, and they do good work for this community.
So thank you. Following today's council meeting, that video will be released to the public through our social media channels and through our YouTube outlets. I'd also like to take this opportunity to say my thanks with appreciation to our public works staff for the long hours and hard work that they do each year. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo from council, that's for sure. Thank you. Councillor Potts.
Thanks, Mayor Hamlin. On that was a good video. Brings back a lot of good memories. But talking about the one comment the operator made in regards to the cars on the street, is there potentially an update to see how that's been going as far as like tickets issued to see? Because like I know for myself, I'm out doing my own thing at the early hours, and there still is a large number of vehicles, and I don't actively see tickets on the windshields, and you'll go by at 10 o'clock in the morning and cars are still parked on the road with a bank of snow around them. Do we have an update to see how bylaw is managing these vehicles? Because it is troublesome. Thanks.
Before I turn it over to the clerk, I'll just say I do get letters from residents complaining about tickets for their car that's out there. But anyway, I'll just turn it over to clerk on this.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. To address Councillor Potts' question, actually, we've been quite proactive this year with our overnight ticketing. I don't have all the stats, but after they go out in the evening, we get a daily report with the numbers, so we can provide that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. So I don't know if this is through to anybody, but I saw a really nice video done by, I believe it was the city of Mississauga, and bragging about they have the equipment with the arm that comes down and clears the snow that's just gone into the laneway and then lifts up. Is that ever in our future? Because I think if the city has it, I think we should have it.
Do you want to respond to that, or maybe Director Alcoca? Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, I think I wrote the mayor's office on the exact subject maybe a day ago or two.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an excellent idea. The only, I guess, obstacle is funds. Introducing something like that requires special equipment, special training, resources that require a lot of preparation. So if this is something that we're going to look into, we're going to have to consider the consequences in terms of cost and support.
Follow up?
Yeah. No, I think it's something that would be interesting to follow up at a future date for sure. And I think that's something every resident in Collingwood would get behind in terms of understanding their taxes and a service that they would really like. So anyway, I just thought I'd ask the question. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. Through you to Manager Cole. I'm well acquainted, of course, with the sidewalk plows, but never noticed, do they each have a horn to beep at anybody who's in the way?
Yes, they do.
Obviously, I've never been in the way. So.
Good work. You're an exemplary pedestrian. Oh, any other questions? Yeah, Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Mayor Hamlin. This is more a comment since we're on the subject, but I have had a couple residents reach out to me and ask me about, after the sidewalks have been done, when the private people come along and do driveways, it blocks the sidewalk. Some of them are quite large. I don't know who would answer it or just take note of it, but yeah, it does create an accessibility problem if there is a lot of snow on the sidewalk after it's been plowed.
Mm-hmm. Anyone want to offer anything?
Just a
comment. Okay, then. All right. Noted. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the consent items. The motion is that council receive the general consent agenda, noting that the information and opinions provided in the general consent agenda items are those of the authors and are not verified or approved as being correct. And there's 4 on today's agenda. 1, Trustee Foley letter, re-support for school trustees. 2, letters re Huntingwood East Development. 3, A Golansky letter re parking at the YMCA. And 4, J Balug letter re parking on Golfview Drive. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Perry, seconded by Councillor Baines. All those in favor? Thank you. Would anyone like to pull any of these? Yes, which ones would you like to pull?
If I could pull 12.3 and 12.4, so parking with the YMCA and the Golf Use Drive.
All right, and yes, go ahead. Which ones would you like to have?
12.1, please.
Okay. And I want to address 2 and 3. Okay. Any others? No? Okay, so we'll start with 1, which is the Deputy Mayor's call. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll just be brief, I think. School trustee Foley's letter is back from early December, and obviously there's been news. Of course, last week the government announced that they were going to be taking over the Peel Board. But I'm going to ask, if I could, Mayor Hamlin, through you to Clerk Amos, if she's aware of any indication from the province about the overall situation for school boards going forward. Just to verify, I don't believe there's anything. I understand that there's the work going with the large boards, but at this stage, as far as I'm aware, there's no talk about the boards like Simcoe.
Clerk Amos?
Certainly, thank you. To address the Deputy Mayor Fryer's question, the municipality is responsible for conducting, as part of our municipal election process, the municipal school board election for trustees as well. And I can confirm that at this point it's status quo. So we will be proceeding with the school board elections for the trustees for the various school boards. If we do hear anything different, we'll make sure that that's shared with council and the public.
Thank you. And I'll just follow up and just say, I'm not going to put forward any kind of, I fully support individual school trustees and through the election process. I think Trustee Foley has done a tremendous job along with Trustee Cooper. So at this point in time, I don't want to do anything with this, but I want to recognize that I don't believe that there's time now for the government to do anything, but if they do, then we may have to take some advocacy forward. But at this point in time, I just wanted to recognize the letter and appreciate the update from Clerk Amos. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I pulled 12.2, which is the various letters about Huntingwood East development. Just to say that I have responded on behalf of council with respect to every letter that's come in on this project. This matters, of course, in a hearing before the Ontario Land Tribunal. And I'll just say that just to confirm 2 things, there is no development that would be happening in the provincial wetland whatsoever. And secondly, that for over a year, our Conservation Authority and our staff have been working to on all issues relating to flooding. And this matters now before the tribunal, as I mentioned, but we just want our community to be assured that this council takes risks of flooding very seriously, and that's what I've been conveying in my answers. Thank you. So 12.3, Councillor Potts.
Thanks, Mayor Hamlin. I think you probably have the update. I'd just like to see publicly what the plan is for the parking lot. Currently, I know there was some discussion that there is some capital plan coming for it. So just an update on that if possible.
Yeah, thank you. This resident has written the first letter, which is on the agenda, has to do with improvements needed to the parking lot at the Curling Club and at the Y. And so I again responded as is required on behalf of all the council. And what I said was, and I'm just turning to the page here, don't give up. In terms of timing, okay. For the Curling Club parking lot, and as we all know, that's beside the Y, Funds were approved in this year's budget, so 2026, for the engineering and design work for the lot improvements. And in 2027, there will be a budget request for council's consideration, which will include the funds allowing the paving and painting as outlined in the engineering design work that would be done this year to go forward. So that is underway. And then with respect to the Y lot itself, the Y is responsible for its own lot, and that's really in their hands. This individual, of course, wrote again to council over the weekend, and I did provide them a little bit of an update on where we have been directing the process towards a multi-use recreation facility, because I think as things unfolded in the correspondence, that was really their concern. So as you've seen the letter, because I copied it all to you this morning, I've directed her to the Engage page, which outlines some of the things, and hopefully a timeline in the next few months where we'll be able to actually pick a site. So, okay, that was what I wanted to say about that. And then 12.4, Councillor Potts.
Thanks again, Mayor Hamlin. I've received correspondence from other owners of the street, not the letter, the author of this letter, but just from staff's perspective, I think there's a couple concerns that I was getting. One was was the challenge in with the current parking of construction. There was a challenge of garbage and recycling pickup, and that and I guess the second concern is that with the additional 8plex at the corner that's going up currently, what is the layout for like the parking for that facility? Because I think that street can lead to a little bit of a challenge given that it's not very wide. And if there are enough parking spots for 3 spaces and 8 tenants have 8 cars, there will be on-street parking ongoing nonstop. So just what is the layout for that new development for how many parking spaces?
Yes, Director Valentine.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, we had staff look at this letter before it came before you today, and we can confirm that there's 4 parking spaces on each lot, so 8 total. There was no minor variance or zoning bylaw amendment required to facilitate parking, so this development did meet the minimum parking standards. And again, there would be 8 spaces for the 8 units over the 2 properties.
Okay, thanks. And just through you, is there the ability future if they need to do any kind of widening? Because like I say, it is even now even with snow removal, garbage pickup, recycling pickup, it is a challenge. And I think if we're increasing the traffic and potentially parking, is there the ability, and it doesn't have to be answered now, but is there the ability to potentially widen it enough that if there happens to be any kind of on-street parking, that it could accommodate all the challenges? And it doesn't have to be answered today. I just thought maybe a future question. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. County report. Deputy Mayor, is there anything you'd like to let us know about today?
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. And I'm just going to briefly cover, because I did provide to council members the more detailed reports. But last week at the meeting, it was marking the 1 year since the Government of Ontario implemented the medical priority dispatch system across the region. And paramedic services are reporting clear improvements in how emergency calls are accessed and resources are deployed. So I wanted to talk about the fact that in Simcoe County's case, paramedic services have seen a 38% reduction in life-threatening dispatches, demonstrating more accurate triage and fewer unnecessary lights and sirens responses. And as I said, I just wanted to briefly touch on that. It's a very important topic. I didn't want to just send the information out to the council members so they had it on hand. But if anybody from the public wanted to look into it in more detail, they can certainly visit the Simcoe County website and get the particulars of the details of the successes that have happened over the past year. So I know from Simcoe County Council's perspective, we are very pleased with the overall results. And one thing that was noted by Commander Mills from the paramedic services is her work with the area fire chiefs. that the fire chiefs feel their staff are responding to the calls that they should be much more now than they were before. And that was an important element that she wanted to point out. So again, I'm open to any questions and anything else as well. But that was the one item I wanted to cover.
Thank you. Any questions, Council? Okay. Next item is Councillor Jeffrey's motion. So I'll let you read this in.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. That council directs staff to undertake the necessary notice and prepare a bylaw to amend the procedural bylaw to include the requirement of offering to other members of council around the table discussion on the matter at hand following the moving of a motion to defer, and that once discussion is concluded, a seconder be sought and a vote on deferral be taken.
Sorry, you know what? That's not what I have here. Could you put that up, please, so we can see it? It's not on my copy of the agenda, sorry. I mean, it's close, but it's not the word, so I just... While we're waiting for that, do you have a seconder? Councillor Potts, thank you. So we'll start discussion. Would you like to speak first or last?
I think it's self-explanatory. Maybe I'll set it up this way. I think we're always trying to enhance our processes, and this is one I've done when I'm chairing a meeting out of just natural consideration, that we get a mover for deferral. And then, especially when something's, I'll tell you the last example is when we called a special meeting specific to an item to talk about it, and then had a motion for deferral to come right up, mover, seconder, bang, no discussion. And how I typically would do it is take the mover for the deferral, go to the rest of the committee or council members to have discussion on the matter at hand, then get the second for deferral. And if people still feel the need for the deferral, then we would do it. And it's kind of the way we've been doing it, but it's not described that way in the procedural bylaw. And I just thought it would enhance and make for a better process for us.
Okay, thank you. But that's not the way we've been doing it when I've been chairing the meetings. So that's okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Who else? Oh, sorry, Clerk Thomas, go ahead.
Thank you. Just for clarification, so this motion is to direct staff to prepare the necessary bylaw because a procedural bylaw amendment does require public notice. So that's the change from the original version.
I see. Thank you. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. Through you to the clerk, just out of interest, the rationale for the way Mayor Hamlin says she's been doing it all along. What is that it moves immediately without discussion?
It's totally up to the chair to facilitate that conversation. The chair has the ability to call a seconder and put it immediately on the floor, or this would actually make the process that it has to go around the table before you get a seconder to put it on the floor. But there is, it's within our Robert's Rules of Order as well that a deferral requires no debate, which is consistent with our procedural bylaw, and this will provide debate up front.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. So it doesn't mean everybody has to discuss. If all of council agrees, there's nothing to discuss, and there's nothing to discuss, but it still gives the opportunity for someone who has questions, who has taken the time to read up on it before getting here for the meeting, that they don't have to wait for the deferral. So I just, I just believe that it is a better process to have that opportunity, the chance of the opportunity, which we don't always have to use.
Did you have any follow-up? Yeah. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. And just clarification through you, if I may, to Clerk Thomas. With the preparation of the bylaw and for the procedural bylaw, does that come to committee of the whole first before formal approval?
Yeah, go ahead.
Certainly, a staff report is not being requested regarding this matter, so it would come straight as a bylaw.
Okay, and I just follow up with Mayor Hamlin. I'm comfortable with that. I'm very supportive of the motion as it reads. I think the intention is even a little later. We already talked about the idea that when the BIA when it comes to there, we're going to have a discussion before deferral. So I think it depends on the matter that's at hand. But if as Councillor Jeffrey says, if we need to amend the bylaw to read that way, then I'm prepared to support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ring.
Thank you very much, Mayor Hamlin. I also am going to support this motion as it's written today. Like mentioned, I was a little disappointed the way it was handled the last time we had a deferral or attempt to have a deferral. And as it turned out, putting it off was probably the wrong thing to do, because once it went to the committee, it was, I think the vote was 8-1 or something. So, I mean, to me, it was just wasting a lot of time. I agree that our procedural bylaw has to be changed, because I read the procedural bylaw and it says there's no deferral. So I know we might not have been doing that, but if we got a bylaw, let's have it the way we do business. So if that means to change that, then I'm supportive of this. Thank you.
So I think my own view on this is that this will remove the flexibility from whoever's chairing the meeting to keep meetings efficient, because this will allow a full debate on a matter, notwithstanding there's a request for deferral. Now, sometimes what the motion is about, it could be over in 10 minutes and it doesn't really affect a meeting. But sometimes, as we know, we need a lot of input from staff, and the debates go on for quite a while. So we would be having a full debate on a motion and then having a deferral request, which is, I would say, not the best use of all our time. I actually think the special meeting that Councillor Ring raised is a really good example of this working, because there was a request for a special council meeting, and some people, when the deferral request came, like you've said, you put your time aside, you came here, you want to deal with it. Other people, like myself, who didn't support it, looked at the fact that we had, I think, 3 meetings on the budget within the week. There was nothing that staff said we couldn't deal with in March. And I'll say resented, but just was a little concerned that I had to totally, as everyone did, totally rearrange their schedule to be here. And we were creating costs for our taxpayer, because we all get paid if it's a special council meeting. But what happened? The council said, no, we don't want a deferral. So we didn't have a deferral. We had a full discussion. We voted, and that was the end of it. But it gave us the opportunity, if there had been enough people who thought they didn't want it. My view wasn't supported. That's fine. I don't care. But I don't see why we have to make it a requirement that we have a full debate on something that could be deferred. And so I won't be supporting this. All right, bring it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion? That would be 5, and those opposed. 1, 2. Okay, that is carried. Okay, at this point, turn the page here. The motion is that council hear and move into committee of the whole. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor McCulloch, seconded by Councillor Perry. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. So we'll just take a few-minute break, and the deputy mayor, who's now the chair of the committee of the whole, will change places. Thank you.
Okay, 3 seconds. We'll come back to order then, if we may, please. We welcome back to Committee of the Whole. And I do just want to mention, Clerk Thomas pointed out that there's nobody online. So unless somebody does come online, I won't be turning and asking if there's anybody online at this point in time. And I do want to start off by thanking the deputations that were here earlier for indulging us in our council process of getting to the topic later in the agenda. To start it off, I'm going to introduce the staff report C 2026-02, proposed Collingwood BIA boundary expansion. And I'm going to turn to Clerk Thomas to introduce the staff report on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fryer. Before I turn it over to our coordinator, Daniel Miziolik, I'll just also share, because it did come up during the deputants' conversations, that the process that we have to follow is a very legislative process. And the comments about we only receive information from objectors, we don't receive consents, that is the legislative process. It is a very old piece of legislation that's tied within the Municipal Act. And I know that the Ontario Business Improvement Area Association has been advocating for a number of changes. And I would believe that would include concerns with how boundary expansions are put forward too. So I'll just turn it over to Coordinator Miziolik.
Thank you, Clerk Thomas. Good afternoon, Mayor Hamlin, Deputy Mayor Fryer, and councillors. Today, I will be presenting Staff Report C 2026-02, which is the proposed expansion of the Collingwood BIA boundary. Next slide, please. So I will begin by providing some context into the proposed expansion. So the last time that the BIA was expanded was in 2015, and I added the properties in the shipyard area north of First Street. The purpose of the current one today that we're going to be talking about is to align the BIA with the strategic plan, or the official plan 2024, and the growth downtown core area of it. Through the expansion process, the town had sent notices of the expansion to individuals whose properties are in the current and the proposed boundary of the BIA. A total of 194 notices were circulated. In this, the expansion included 11 additional properties with commercial zoning in the expansion area. It is key to note that the BIA levy is based on the impact commercial assessed value of the property and is not charged on the residential value of that. And it is proportional as well to the actual commercial part of the property. So if a property is split between a house on the bottom and a office on the top, it will only be charged on the commercial assessed value of that. And then with using the 2025 BIA levy rate, the expansion would add approximately $51,000 of tax revenue to the BIA, and those properties would be charged between $450,000 to $19,000 in additional tax levy, depending on that impact assessed value that is. It is also important to note that if the expansion is approved today, the properties will begin to pay the levy in 2027. Next slide, please. So this map here shows the alignment of the BIA with the town's official plan, as well as the Heritage District. As you can see, the proposed expansion does not completely align the BIA with the official plan, with that Shipyards and Terminal Point project being outside of that downtown core designation within that plan itself. Rather, it does add the properties that are currently outside of the BIA, but was noted as downtown core in the official plan, mainly on that Market Street corridor, as well as a couple places on 3rd Street and north on Hume as well. Next slide, please. So this slide here, that depicts the expansion process. So as we had noted, the BIA Board of Management approved the expansion in September 2025 and sent it to a council for their approval, which was endorsed in October 2025, where council directed staff to begin the expansion process. This began with the notices being sent out to all property owners in the current and proposed BIA boundary area. The objection deadline hit in January 2026, and now we are where that dark blue bubble is, which is the staff report for council's consideration, which we are bringing to you today. If the expansion is approved, we'll bring forward a bylaw for final consideration and approval of the expansion. Next slide, please. So as the actual process for the expansion is deeply rooted in the provincial legislation, it should be noted that there are certain parameters in which a town cannot pass and proceed with a bylaw. So they are currently outlined here on the slide, and that includes that objections must be given to the town within 60 days of the mailing date. And the objections must be signed by 1/3 of the total number of persons entitled to the notice itself. And those people must be responsible for at least 1/3 of the actual taxes levied. Next slide, please. So the town received a total of 16 letters. One was a letter of support from a property already in the BIA. Then there was 15 letters of people who opposed the expansion itself from 11 qualifying properties. So the reason why there was 15 letters and only 11 qualifying is because the tenants of properties who are being expanded into, they also have the opportunity to provide their opinion as well, and they count toward the objection itself. So when we send out the actual notice, we ask for all the different tenants in the building that pays tax to the town itself, as their objection would count toward it. So it looks a little confusing, but it is 11 qualifying properties. 10 of the letters itself were in the expanded area, and it was six properties total in the expanded area that we received letters from. Now, looking at the actual legislation, we do not meet the requirement for those objections alone to stop the BIA expansion itself, as 6% of the total number of people entitled to the notice and 8% of the taxes levied were opposed to the expansion. With that being said, council can consider now whether they want to deny or approve the expansion itself, and it's solely up to council's wish. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to go over some key themes that we got in the objection letters. So the biggest one that was highlighted in the letters from the current BIA members, as well as the ones that are being expanded into or potentially being expanded into, was the financial burden that the additional taxes levied would put on their business. So that was a key theme for both of those two groups. And we did clarify with the current members that the plan of expanding was not planning to increase their BIA levy, but they still wish to oppose it as they believed it could. The objectors also did not believe that they would receive the full benefit of being a member of the BIA. And much of this came from the property location or the actual building type. So whether it was that they were on a street with mainly homes or the fact that they were like office building where they did not need the additional foot traffic in front of their buildings. An example that we provided was in the Market Street area. There's 37 total properties and 3 have commercial assessment. Of those 3, 1 has full commercial assessment, 1 is a vacant land commercial, and the third one is part residential, part commercial. So not totally commercial in that regards. It was also noted that by having this additional levy, and typically taxes are paid for by tenants, that it would increase the rent on the tenants for those properties, which in turn kind of makes them not as attractive for potential businesses to move into unless they see the benefits of being a member of the BIA for their specific business. Next slide, please. So we have 4 options today to present to a council for consideration. The first one is to approve the BIA boundary expansion. This option would provide the BIA with additional tax revenue to further its work and then potentially help to reduce the levy on other properties. This option also aligns with the official plan as well as other important Collingwood plans, such as the Downtown Master Plan that talks about expanding onto First and then Huron Street as well. It can increase the property values by being a member of the BIA, as well as the demand for space if the BIA comes in and activates the area and improves that interest for commercial space in the area. It also improves the equity for the BIA current members, as some properties are directly neighboring the BIA currently and receive the benefits without paying the current levy. And then the main drawback for this option would be that the BIA would expand into a mainly residential area that may not want to actually be activated and would draw foot traffic towards as well, which someone that has like house in the area, they may not want that additional foot traffic and like the quaintness of their street as it is right now. As well as it also could potentially stymie the conversion of any residential space into commercial, as now those people considering that transition would see the extra cost of paying the BIA levy as well. So it might be an attractor. It might also slow the growth in that specific area. Next slide, please. So option number 2 is to reject the expansion altogether. This option would support the concerns of the objectors, and it would eliminate the financial burden detailed in those letters. It allows for more time for commercial development in the area to develop, as it might be premature right now with them being mainly residential zones, and could allow the BIA to potentially look back at the map and examine the boundaries that they put forward and potentially do another expansion effort in the future. This option will not provide the BIA with additional levy and does not align with the town's official plans. Next slide, please. So now we have option 3, which is to delay the expansion. This option is not currently recommended by staff, as it is essentially kicking the can down the road. It would defer the expansion for a specified amount of time to further commercial development. And this option may require an additional notice period. If the deferral is 2 years or more, it would then require another notice period, another staff report, and then we could be back in the same place we are now. Then option number 4 would be to approve the expansion, but direct staff to explore special charges. So under the Act, it does allow council to set a special rate for certain properties as well as certain business classes. And that is completely up to the benefit that council perceives that business would receive. So for an example, the city of North Bay, they have a completely separate charge for businesses on the main street versus those that are not on the main street, because they perceive those businesses on the main street would receive more of a benefit. Now, if council wishes to explore this option, staff would recommend that a council consider phasing in the BIA levy for the properties in the expansion area over a set time frame to allow those businesses time to transition into this new charge. So instead of going right up front and saying you're now going to pay X amount, we will space that out over 5 years, so 20% a year for 5 years. Now that is completely up to council's decision how far they want to spread out and if they even want to go with that option. This option would also require an additional notice process because the levy is separate from the actual boundary expansion. So similar to the process that we just went through here with sending out the notices, people potentially opposing it and then coming back with a staff report. If we were to consider a special charge, we would then have to go back out and send out new notices to those businesses to say this is the potential special charge that we are considering. Do you object? And that would be to anyone in the current BIA, and that would include the expanded area as well. As this process is separate from the expansion itself, it would not affect the expansion. So if we were to approve it, and then if people were to oppose the special charge, the expansion would still be approved and would still move forward. So those properties would just pay the full rate or whatever it may be. Now, this option does have some risk as it can be seen unfair to the businesses that pay the full amount, and it could create division within the BIA if one business pays less than another and not proportional to their assessed value. It also sets a dangerous precedent that could result in further BIA levy reduction requests. Next slide, please. So I want to thank Council today for considering the information and the options that I have presented today. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. As well, I want to acknowledge that the Collingwood BIA, they are present here today and available to us to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Coordinator Miziolik. One thing too, I'll quickly add, because it was referenced in one of the other deputations this afternoon, was that council doesn't have the ability to scope it either. So the area that's been identified as provided in the notice is the area. So if council wanted to rescope the area in discussions with the BIA, a new notice process would have to happen and come back to council. So I just want to provide that.
Okay, well, thank you, Clerk Amos, and thank you, Coordinator Miziolik. At this point in time, I will ask if there's anybody in the gallery who would like to speak to this as a further deputation or not. It doesn't appear to be, and we still don't have anybody online. So I'm going to read in and ask for a mover and a seconder, and then open it up for discussion with council, and questions can come at that time. So the recommendation is that staff report C 2026-02, proposed Collingwood BIA boundary expansion, be received, and that council directs staff to proceed with the following option. Option 1, prepare the necessary bylaw to approve the BIA boundary expansion as proposed by the BIA Board of Management. Option 2, not proceed with the BIA boundary expansion at this time. Or option 3, delay the effective date of the expansion to January 1st, some date after 2026, until more commercial business development occurs in the expanded areas. Option 4, prepare the necessary bylaw to approve the BIA boundary expansion and direct staff to explore a special charge for a phased-in approach for the newly expanded properties over X number of years at this point in time. And I'd ask for a mover. So, okay, so I think we'll sever it. And we'll just call for a vote at this point in time on receiving the report. All those in favor? So, mover and seconder, Councillor Jeffrey and Councillor Potts. And on receiving the report, is there any discussion that anybody would like to have before that? Go right ahead. Yep.
Thanks, Chair. Just clarification on this is if it comes down to a deferral or anything, like, it doesn't really match up to, like, really even option 3 is still asking for a time. So I'm just wondering how that works. Do we have to have one of these on here to turn it down? Like, what's the process?
So I'm going to turn to Clerk Amos and let her give the explanation rather than me attempt and her fill it in. So go ahead.
Thank you. Council has two options. You can receive this report and pass it as being received today, and then put a new motion on with a new mover and seconder to defer it, or you can have a mover and seconder put a specific option on the floor and have that deferred. So it's up to council on how you wish to proceed.
So a deferral can be put on table whenever you want to. So at this point in time, we would just receive the report, and then I'd look to see if somebody wanted to put an option on the table, and we'd have discussion, but a deferral could be put forward at any point in time on that. So we're fine with that. Everybody's okay. So I'm just going to call the matter to receiving the report to vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. And now I'll just look to see if anybody would like to put an option on the table in regards to the 4 that have been presented in the recommendation. Councillor or Mayor Hamlin, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. We don't know. We heard that the BIA president wanted to review this with the BIA board, given the deputations today and the staff report that came out Friday. And I certainly would like to have the opportunity to hear what the board might be thinking after they've had an opportunity to consider all this new information. Because one of the options might well be to come back with different boundaries even. So that would be my reason for deferring this at this time.
I think what we'll do then is we'll actually turn to Councillor Potts and see if you want to put a deferral on. As chair, I still think I'm going to allow some comment before we vote on the deferral, so I won't look for a seconder right off. And then I'm aware of what Mayor Hamlin said, but I also see Councillor Ring has his hand up, so I'm going to ask him first for his comment.
Thank you very much, Chair Fryer. Have we picked an option, or are we just deferring the motion? Do we have a motion?
I believe we're going to have the deferral put on the table. I won't look for a seconder. I'll let us have some conversation. I think Mayor Hamlin's point is we could end up talking about this some, and it may turn out to be different. So I think that's the intention is to allow anybody to speak if they would like to about the deferral before I take a seconder, because we will just vote on it.
If I may follow up then, if I could support a deferral if that's what it is a deferral, and it's not one of these 4 options, because I'd like, if Councillor Potts wants to defer it till after the BIA, as you mentioned, has better look at the information they received today, I could support that. But none of these really say that. Even if we went with option 3 today, it's not deferring it technically, it's just putting it off for a while. So I would support a deferral if that's what Councillor Potts wants to put on the floor.
I believe the intention is a deferral to the next meeting, or certainly after BIA has had a chance to consider it and provide information back.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Through you. That's where I've been trying to go the whole time here, is to say, I want, following up on the request of the BIA, but I also wanted to ensure today that there was discussion so that we can hear comments from the committee while going back to with the BIA to hear further comments to be able to come back to the next meeting. And that's what I've been kind of waiting to do here. So
I think you have 2 choices then. You could put one of these options on the table and then put deferral on after that, or whichever way you would prefer.
So my motion would be to defer. None of these options, like even at option 3, it doesn't speak to it. So it would be a motion to defer.
So before I turn for a seconder, I'm going to ask.
So I think that was the motion I put on, Chair.
Sorry, Mayor Hamlin, I was referring back to earlier in the meeting, and the indication was that it was going to be brought forward. Sorry about that. So, Councillor Potts, would you like to speak on the deferral?
Yeah, sure, if I could, please.
And on the expansion itself too, we'll allow the conversation on that.
Thanks. So, thanks, Chair. So basically, given the request from the BIA today, we heard some very valuable information coming through our deputations today that I think is extremely prudent information for us to have. I know I have a number of questions in regards to the expansion that I can ask, and I just basically I look at right now there is a lot of uncertainty when it comes to I guess, fairness across the BIA as far as representation of how things happen. So I look, for instance, and the reason why I'd like to get more information back is one key thing is just from winter operations abroad is, is the town prepared at this point that if this goes through to maintain the same service level of winter operation and snow removal and accessibility across all expansion blocks that the downtown currently receives. So that's one thing. And another part of it is there's a little bit of angst within the current BIA that the equal service isn't there within the current BIA. So when we ask for this expansion and we ask to increase the area in that, is this something that's gonna change? So, and then also too, I realize like it's an unfair playing field, or potentially could be an unfair playing field and I'll use Market Street for example, there could be a number of residential homes that have businesses within their home that aren't a storefront or aren't registered that we don't know about. And I don't feel maybe at this point it would be a fair process for the actual businesses that are picking up the tab on that too. So I really think there's a lot of information here that needs to come back. And so that's why I would support the deferral. So.
Okay, and I hadn't taken a seconder only because I'd have to call a vote immediately without debate. So it was just an opportunity to speak to the deferral as being presented. So I was going to check with Councillor Ring to see if he had anything to add beside your earlier comments. And
no, basically for the same reasons that Councillor Potts just mentioned, is I would support a deferral, but not one of these options at that time.
I'll just check with Councillor Potts. You asked a couple of questions there. Were you looking for answer now? I think one of them was applicable to town staff, but the other one was more applicable, I think, to the BIA themselves. But the one about some of the area that it's being expanded to. So how do you want to deal with the questions you have? If you could just.
Yeah, through you, Chair. All my questions are basically directed with the town. It's really about the maintenance. Like, I'm not getting into like the beautification, or that's a whole other discussion with the BIA. It's the actual maintenance that the town would provide as far as services. So the one thing I talked initially about was and a lot of it is because of the maintenance, the accessibility in the winter operations and the snow removal. And I mean, it's challenging as it is, but a lot of the current BIA members that are within the BIA now, there's a lot of angst on, are they receiving the same service? You could be a business on 3rd Street, you could be a business on Pine Street. Are they receiving the same level of services the businesses on the main street? So now we talk about going into the expanded portion. Is the town prepared resources wise, because we know it's coming, that it's going to be, is Market Street and is the far end of Huron and wherever else going to receive the same level of service of snow clearing and accessibility as downtown? That's a key, because it is one of the most important things.
I think then I'll turn to CAO Skinner and let her respond to that. I think that's an important question that you're asking, that you want information on.
Yeah, through the chair. The way that the BIA works is it doesn't enhance the town's level of service. The BIA itself enhances its level of service. So inherently, it wouldn't be a change in level of service by the town. The town's requirements the levels of service are independent of the BIA boundaries, and the accessibility piece that cuts through the snow banks and those kind of things, those are provided by the BIA. So we could do some more review just to be clear on what standards are affected or not, but it isn't a one-on-one match. If council wished to, for example, change plowing standards for a certain area of town, that would be a winter maintenance standards decision. Thank you.
Follow?
Yeah, and a follow-up. So thank you for that. My next one would be the garbage pickup that currently happens on the main street. Maybe the BIA provides the garbage cans and the recycling cans. I would need clarification on that, but I know it's town staff that collect it. So again, if we expand into the area, is that something, again, that the town is prepared to increase that level of service for that kind of collection? And that's the thing is, I'm not trying to center out anything individually, but these are all important pieces that if I was a business that's on, and I'll use Market Street because it's been brought up in deputations, that if I was a business on Market Street, I would expect, if I'm paying a large amount of money, a levy increase, I would expect the same level of service as the business between 2nd and 3rd on Main Street in Collingwood. It's a no-brainer. So I'm just wondering, is because this is something that's, I think, extremely important to ensure that it's fairness and equitable right across the entire BIA downtown. So
again, I'll turn to CEO Skinner, because the garbage collection you're talking about is the extra canisters in that, not the county service. Okay.
Yeah, through you, the way that it works can be more complicated. For example, the board at the BIA, and I know you're a member, the town appointed member there, Councillor Potts, will make decisions in their opinion, for the best investments for the overall BIA. So they may or may not invest on, enhancing the cobblestone type streets, the numbers of garbage receptacles and that type of thing over time. And it would be a town decision to take on more garbage cleaning and those kind of things. So those are, good questions about what may happen, but they're not necessarily a town obligation for that matter, nor a BIA obligation outright. It would be more of a conversation about what's best to attract people and residents to this set of businesses that would be dealt with by the board, and if there's a request for council, by council.
And I'll let my colleagues speak. Just my last note will be, for me to make a decision on this expansion, I would have to be assured clarification that the expansion would be equitable from all services, whether it's BIA provided or it's town provided, to ensure that everybody is getting a fair opportunity for the same services. So that's why with the deferral, it will be nice to have that information back at that time. So That's it for now. Thanks.
I'll look to see if anyone else. Mayor Hamlin, go ahead.
Thank you. One question I wouldn't mind having addressed when it comes back is there was a comment in the staff presentation that there was one of the streets was mainly residential and there are only 3 commercial properties, or maybe more than one. So I would be interested in just seeing on the expansion area as proposed that comes back to us, how much is residential and how much is commercial. Thank you.
And then I'll just turn to Clerk Almus that can be added to that's great. Anything further, Mayor Hamlin?
No, thank you.
Councillor Jeffrey? And then Councillor Baines.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, I think it's good that the BIA representatives have been here to listen to this, because I do think the deputants are pretty clear on how it's not going to be of a benefit for them. So I think that needs to be addressed, not just by saying it benefits everybody. I think they very specifically came up with their rationale as to how it's not going to be of benefit to them. So I think that needs to be answered. And I think affordability for business startups or for the existing ones, I think you're impacting business plans that are already in flight. I think that's an important consideration. And I think the infrastructure investment that the town and the BIA made when the downtown core was redone, that will not be within our affordability window for quite some time. So the side streets won't be upgraded, or those proposed expanded areas won't have the opportunity, I don't think, for that upgraded infrastructure, perhaps furniture. So I think I look forward to a BIA response to all the things that have been brought up today, for me to be able to make a decision one way or the other.
So you weren't looking for any of those questions right now?
I
to be
think,
answered,
I
just
think Councillor
what's the further-
Potts brought up the good ones, and I think I'm just reinforcing what our deputy had said, and I really hope that the BIA takes those to heart and responds to them. I guess the question would be is, will the deputants get that information ahead of our next meeting? The BIA, how would we would get it through minutes or an attendance here, but would the deputants, the people that are being asked to consider this expansion, how will they get the BIA's information or change of information or update ahead of us meeting as a council?
And I guess one of the things is 2 weeks enough, right? Or is there going to be more time? So I'll turn to Director or to Clerk Amos to respond.
Certainly, we can just defer it and have it come back whenever we have the additional information available to us. And any of the new information that we gather, we can include in the amendment section of the staff report. So it will differentiate and it'll be easily accessible for council and members of the public looking at that additional information that's being requested.
I'll just ask for clarification then, because you just mentioned this. Is this the same as with some of the public meetings where if somebody has registered as an objector, they'll get the information? No, they just need to wait until the release of the agenda 5 to 6 days before the meeting. Okay. And so I'll now turn to Councillor Baines.
Thank you. I think the question's been answered in the sense that I support a deferral as well, but I would like to allow enough time for a full consultation with the BIA, with not only the objectors, but the supporters as well. And if that takes a month, 2 months, 5 months, so be it. I think it is of such importance that we ought to allow them the time in that regard.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Councillor Ring, go ahead.
After the deputations we've had and all the literature we've seen in the letters from the objections, I probably was going to just go with the option 2 and not expand at all. But I too will support the deferral for the simple reason is as long as we give it enough time to get actually concrete information that's going to help us make a better decision, then I'd be willing to support the deferral for that reason.
Anyone further? Councillor McCullough, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to pick up on something that Councillor Jeffries had mentioned, and that's typically these will flow through to a tenant, which increases their occupancy cost. And talking about equity and inequity, it puts properties right on the boundary of the BIA who are leasing to tenants at a competitive disadvantage to someone who is very close. There will always be properties on the boundary on either side of the line. So expanding the boundary won't solve that issue, but it may exacerbate it in some conditions. So that's one point. To an owner occupied building, the difference is material. It's about $16 of value per dollar you add in tax assessment. When you go to sell the property, it affects the net operating income. So on a large building, that's a big hit, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I do think it's something that needs to be considered very carefully. And I think the process here is a good one. Thank you.
Anyone further wishing to speak? Okay, Councillor Potts, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Is there going to be do we need it within the motion like a timeline, or is it just okay? Okay, thanks.
It would be just to come back when the information is available to be circulated. Is anyone else wishing? The only question I would ask is, does this impact the Heritage District at all? I don't believe it will, but the two have boundaries that haven't matched in the past, so there's no impact on the heritage situation through this expansion. No. Okay. So we do have a deferral on table, and I'll look to a seconder, Mayor Hamlin. Okay. And I will have no further debate on that, and we'll just call the matter to a vote. And it is for deferral for when the information can be provided back in the staff report for a committee of the whole meeting. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. And again, I'll thank the deputations and again, indulging our process. It's a while ago since you presented to us. So thank you and have a good evening. So the next item, I'm actually going to be vacating the chair and Mayor Hamlin's going to take it forward, which is 15.2. I'm going to leave the chair and go to the gallery so I can demonstrate clearly to the clerk that I'm not participating. And this has to do with the my mention at the outset of the agenda that I have the existing non-pecuniary code of conduct disqualifying interest.
Thank you, Chair. So the next item, the motion before us is its staff report, P 2026-03, proposed zoning bylaw amendment 401 Raglan Street, dated February 2nd, 2026 be received, and that the amending zoning bylaw attached as Appendix A to this report be enacted and passed. So we'll put this on the floor and I'll turn it over to staff after that. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Okay, so you go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, committee, staff, and members of the public. My name is Erica Rose, and I'm the community planner assigned to the file for 401 Raglan Street. Next slide, please. The subject property is located on the east side of Raglan Street and the south side of Ron Emo Road. The property has a lot area of approximately 8.55 hectares and presently contains the All Saints Anglican Church Cemetery on the west, and the balance of the property is vacant on the east. Lands surrounding the subject property primarily include employment uses to the north, east, and west, and the lands to the south are vacant and subject to the Poplar Regional Health and Wellness Village MZO overlay, which is the anticipated location of a future Greenfield hospital. Next slide, please. The property is entirely zoned community services in the town zoning bylaw. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone approximately 5.08 hectares of the eastern portion of the subject property from community services to holding 23 general industrial exception 5 to facilitate a concurrent consent application to create one new lot for future development. Next slide, please. Through the associated consent application, the proposed lot to be severed, which is the hatched area in red on the screen, is currently vacant and considered surplus to the long-term needs of the All Saints Anglican Church. This portion of the property is also within the town's employment lands and under the 2024 official plan and is intended to be developed with industrial uses. With these considerations in mind, the applicant is proposing to rezone and sever the eastern portion of the property to enable future employment-related development. For clarity, no development is being proposed at this time, and the rezoning is simply intended to permit a range of industrial uses that are consistent with the general employment designation under the new official plan. It is noted that the west side of the subject property is already appropriately designated and zoned for the existing cemetery and is therefore not subject to this zoning bylaw amendment. Next slide, please. The holding 23 general industrial exception 5 zone would serve several purposes. First, the holding zone would restrict development until such time as servicing allocation requirements are determined, accounted, and allocated. Since high water users are not permitted as of right under the 2024 official plan, this approach ensures that any future development goes through the appropriate process of obtaining servicing allocation beforehand. Secondly, the General Industrial Exception 5 zone proposes site-specific provisions to permit the list of uses that are shown on the screen before you. These uses are consistent with the corresponding general employment designation and exclude standalone commercial and institutional uses to align with recent provincial legislation and policy that are applicable to employment areas. Next slide, please. To date, no comments have been received from any members of the public regarding the proposed rezoning, and no oral submissions were received during the public meeting held on December 15th, 2025. Staff have received a number of comments from internal and external agencies, including the town's Development Engineering Department, Enbridge, EPCOR, and the NVCA, all of which had no concerns with the proposal or the submitted materials. Next slide, please. Following the public meeting, a number of changes were made to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Members of council may recall during the public meeting that the site was originally proposed to be rezoned to industrial park. However, in order to ensure greater consistency with the purpose and intent of the general employment designation, staff recommended that the general industrial zone be applied instead, which is also consistent with the surrounding neighborhood context. To that extent, the list of permitted uses was also refined to include the uses that are permitted under the parent general industrial zone while excluding standalone commercial and institutional uses. The last change that was recommended by staff was the inclusion of a holding zone to address official plan policies regarding the allocation of municipal servicing capacity. The inclusion of the holding 23 zone would ensure that future development cannot proceed until servicing capacity requirements are determined and allocated. Next slide, please. 3 studies and reports were submitted with the application, including a planning justification report, a stage 2 archaeological assessment, and a functional servicing report. These materials were circulated to internal staff and external agencies for review and comment, and all matters pertaining to this application have been addressed to the satisfaction of town staff. Although the property is not designated environmental protection or within the natural heritage system, the official plan recognizes that significant features may exist within other land use designations, and it provides opportunities for staff to request appropriate studies to determine this where certain evidence may exist. Since the eastern portion of the property is currently vacant, heavily treed, and undisturbed, an environmental impact study will be required at the future site plan approval stage once the applicable policies of the 2024 official plan are no longer subject to appeal. Next slide, please. Based on our review of the proposal, Planning Services recommends approval of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment as it is consistent and conforms with applicable planning policy and regulatory instruments, including those with respect to employment areas. It supports future intensification of a vacant lot with access to municipal services. It would increase supply of employment lands within the town, and it is supported by internal and external agency review partners. Next slide, please. This slide just briefly highlights the stage that we're at in the town's development review process. All items in blue have been completed to date, and the green box outlined in red reflects where we are today at the Committee of the Whole meeting. A pre-consultation meeting was held with the applicant on March 21st, 2024, and a list of comments were provided on the proposal. Following this, the town received a zoning bylaw amendment application, which was deemed complete and circulated to internal and external agencies for review and comment. A notice of public meeting was published on November 19th, 2025, and the meeting was subsequently held on December 15th, 2025. All comments and feedback received to date were considered in the preparation of staff's recommendation today. Next slide, please. Pending the committee's decision today, the staff report would proceed to the next council meeting for decision on February 18th, 2026. If approved, a notice of decision will be issued and the 20-day appeal period will commence. If no appeals are received, the zoning bylaw amendment would come into effect once all outstanding appeals to the 2024 official plan are resolved. Following this, all conditions of consent would need to be finalized, and a future site plan control and removal of holding zone application will be required prior to development commencing on the property. And that concludes my presentation for today. I'm happy to answer any questions if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Community Planner Rose. That was great. Would there be any questions of staff by council? No, I think you're, yeah. So you're free to go. Thank you. Would there be anyone from the public who would like to address council at this time?
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Colin Travis. I am the planning consultant of record working with the church on this file. We've had the benefit of several discussions with Community Planner Rose on the report that you have before you. And again, based on the considerations that planning staff had to take into account, we fully support the planning staff report and are very grateful for the amount of effort that's gone into this file thus far by Community Planner Rose. So therefore, we are, again, very pleased with the report and the recommendation and hope that it can go forth with the recommendation to council for February the 18th, I think it was. So I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. My microphone keeps turning off. John, go ahead.
Madam Mayor and members of council, my name is John Kirby. I just want to echo what Colin has said and congratulate your planning department. This project has been going on since 2019, and I'm getting older all the time. But I think we're at the finish line, or very close to the finish line, and it wouldn't have been possible, certainly without Colin and all his work. But the planning department and the staff of the town, they have been excellent. Erica, Shaylin, they just have done a great job all the way along. So you should be very pleased with them. Thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. Any other member of the public like to come forward? Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I should provide some clarity to the rest of council and the public who are watching. We do have a vice chair of our committee of the whole that's present today. However, we neglected to have him in our agenda briefing today or to provide the appropriate training. So right now we do have Mayor Hamlin chairing this during the conflict of interest of the deputy mayor. Council does have the ability to call a point of order and actually have an election for an interim individual. But if you were satisfied with the mayor to carry on, then we can do that.
It's not too late. Okay, thank you for that clarification. I don't think there's any other members of the public. Would anyone on council like to address this matter? Okay, so I've already read it in. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Potts, seconded by Councillor, who's down there? Councillor Ring. I'll just say that, thank you for the church for coming forward with this application, because it certainly adds a much needed parcel of employment lands to our community. And that's all I'll say. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll just say thank you to Clerk Amos for providing that clarification. And because I did introduce Councillor McCullough earlier, and it should have been Vice Chair McCullough, and I correct myself on that. The next item we have is 15.23, which is IN 2025-01, and it's a transit update. And we are going to turn to Director Alcoca and let him introduce it. And I believe Manager Cole and Coordinator Falcon are involved in the presentation by staff.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm calling on Sandy Falcon, our transit coordinator, to give the presentation. And Manager Cole and I will be also available to answer questions after the presentation. Go ahead.
Welcome, and go right ahead.
Thank you. This is a brief overview of a detailed staff report that was shared with council. Next slide, please. Since the 2021 transit review was approved by council, progression and improvements in transit have been taking place as demonstrated in the report. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the key items of progression made to date including the 5-year transit plan that was adopted, on-demand service introduction, the conventional and specialized services combined into one, electric bus feasibility work, additional staffing added for transit management have all been completed, and the fare structure update with annual reviews, regional transit coordination, and planning underway for improved intermunicipal connections is ongoing. Next slide, please. What is on-demand transit? As an overview, on-demand service uses existing bus stops for pickup and drop-off bookings. Rides can be booked same day, 30 minutes or more in advance. The Blaze software will calculate a pickup and drop-off within 2 bus stops of the rider's pickup address and drop-off location using a curb approach. Depending on the last location the bus is traveling, it may require a rider to cross the street to catch their bus. Next slide, please. This is an overview of the ridership of the weekend crosstown on demand. The crosstown route on demand since the mid-2022 year has seen a 50% decline since its implementation in 2024, since its full implementation in 2024. The largest drop occurred between 2023 and 2024, showing riders did not transition to on demand. Next slide, please. A summary analysis will follow in the next slide, but this will highlight some ridership trends. From 2022 to 2025, the crosstown route shows heaviest decline within the system, while all other routes remain consistent. Next slide, please. System ridership peaked in 2023 after strong post-pandemic recovery and then declined in 2024 and 2025. The crosstown shows the steepest decline, closely aligning with the introduction and full rollout of on-demand service. The west route shows moderate fluctuations below its 2023 peak, but relatively stable. The east route remains the most consistent, indicating strong alignment with fixed route travel needs. Blink has the highest ridership. Overall system decline is driven primarily by crosstown, reinforcing that service predictability and accessibility are key to sustaining transit use. Next slide, please. Our specialized transit has an application which must be completed to be reviewed and approved with medical documentation. Rides are booked in advance and are on a rideshare program as well. Next slide, please. Ridership and booking patterns offer insight into service stability, demand sensitivity, operational performance of specialized transit. It continues to be a high demand, consistently utilized service, reinforcing its role as a targeted support. Next slide, please. On-demand works best with staggered trip requests, but Collingwood's demand peaks occur in the same narrow time windows. Trip grouping during peak periods often fail individual rider needs, reducing convenience and reliability compared to fixed route service. These factors contribute to declining ridership and demonstrate a misalignment between on-demand performance and local travel patterns. For example, 3 riders book a ride to get to work by 9 a.m. at 3 different pickup locations and 3 different drop-off locations. The on-demand service cannot accommodate all 3 riders. Next slide, please. For equity and accessibility implications, we see that public transit must remain predictable. The on-demand model introduces new barriers, and declining ridership indicates that on-demand unintentionally excludes those who rely on transit the most. Next slide, please. We have highlighted a transit implementation plan. the future of Collingwood Transit based on 3 years of ridership trends, staff propose a phased implementation approach. The immediate approach is to stabilize the transit system and reestablish rider confidence. On-demand technology will continue to be used for our specialized booking system. Our phase 2 is to review alignment and connectivity. The objective is to improve coverage, reduce redundancies, and better align service. An RFI to assess available transit technologies and service delivery models, identify tools that can complement the optimized fixed route network. Phase 3 is building on both phase 1 and 2. This phase will establish the groundwork needed to guide transit planning over the long term. This will allow staff to provide council with a clear strategic framework for future transit decision-making, ensuring that service expansion, capital investment, and operational changes are coordinated. Next slide, please. Financial impacts. There are no operational budget impacts from the recommended service changes overall. This report and staff recommendation have no associated financial impacts for initial phasing. Restoring scheduled crosstown service is expected to boost ridership, improve efficiency, and strengthen the public return on investment. Next slide, please. Staff recommendations. Discontinuing weekend on-demand service on the crosstown route and reinstate scheduled fixed route crosstown service on weekends. Second, directing staff to implement the phased future transit implementation plan outlined in this report, including system stabilization, route optimization, growth-related service expansion, subject to council approval through the annual budget process and as a precursor to a future transit master plan. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And at this point in time, before I open it up to council, just going to ask if there's any in the gallery who would like to speak. Does not appear to be, and we still do not have any participants online. So I'm going to read in the recommendation and have it put onto the floor, and then we can open up for questions and discussion. That staff report PW 2026-001 transit update be received, and that council authorizes staff to proceed with reinstating a scheduled fixed route crosstown service on weekends and discontinuing the weekend on-demand service. Second part, directing staff to implement the phased future transit implementation plan outlined in this report, including system stabilization, road optimization, and growth-related service expansion, subject to council approval through the annual budget process and as a precursor to the future transit master plan. I think what I'll do is I'll sever off and just call to vote right now. Ask for a mover and a seconder on receiving the report. A mover, Councillor Jeffrey, seconder, Councillor Ring. Any discussion on receiving the report? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. And now, with regards to the that I have read out, do I have Councillor Jeffrey will put that on and Councillor Ring as well. And then I can open it up for anybody to speak and go ahead, Councillor Jeffrey.
Just to say, I fully support the recommendations in the report. I really want to say thank goodness, because they took me kicking and screaming to on-demand busing, because all the reasons we're stipulating in this report today are all the reasons we were given when we said on-demand. So there has to be, you know, I'm glad that there's no more cost to go back, because we were always assured that we could go back to a regular bus route system that was predictable. So I'm really happy, and I know all the people who talked to me who weren't happy about it are going to be happy too. So thank you.
Anyone further? Councillor Baines?
Thank you. Just as a follow-up to that, I would think to Ms. Falcon, in regard to on-demand, are there any lessons, well, in comparison to other communities our size that implement on-demand, why did theirs work or does theirs work and it doesn't work here? I.e., what are the lessons learned for Collingwood in trying to implement on-demand?
Through the chair to you, Councillor Baines, an idea is that on-demand works well in communities that are picking up from rural areas and bringing to a central hub to connect to a fixed route. And in our case, that is not what was happening.
Councillor Potts. Oh, and Mayor Hamlin, you go ahead then, and then Councillor Potts.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your report. It's a very common sense solution to an unsuccessful experiment. My question is, since the southern part of Collingwood was amalgamated into the town so many years now, the people who live down there have been promised transit service. And I saw that as part of the future planning. And I'm just wondering if you have a time frame around when that will be looked at and when we might see a master transit plan coming back to council.
I'll defer to Director Alcoca. Thank you.
Go ahead, Director Alcoca.
To the chair, to the mayor. Our general timelines for now is to do this within the next 6 months. Look at after we reinstate the service, look at the optimization capacity, how to implement what the MMTV will be recommending, which includes several items on transit. That includes the southern part of the transit expansion, some of the new subdivisions.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, and then Councillor Potts, and then Councillor McCullough.
Thank you, Chair. I got a few questions here. Thanks for the update, Coordinator Falcon, and I couldn't be more supportive of this with the on-demand. A couple of questions I have, and I'd asked in the past was, do we have any idea how the ridership, and this may not just be for the on-demand, but when council provided budget to extend the hours, has the ridership increased, or is there any statistics that have been provided on that portion? So I got a couple, but I'll leave that question for now.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Through the chair to Councillor Potts, I have collected some unofficial data, and ridership has increased indeed. From the hours from 9 to 11 p.m., there has been approximately about 100 riders per week that have been using the system. Although it doesn't appear to be a great number, it is something that the public is getting used to, as well as the drivers. And I do foresee that there will be more ridership with the continuous having scheduled transit until that time.
And a follow-up, if I may, Chair. So, and I think important to that would be some strong collaboration, especially with whether it's the business economic or the BIA, to work for awareness with our local businesses, because a lot of the concerns that come to me from the downtown is that, they're trying to work a way of staff not having to drive into work, that they could use the transit for the earlier hours and the later hours. So it would be nice to see something that we could maybe some sort of campaign or launch to drive that. My second question on the accessible transit, the Blaze app that I've had a number of calls for that seem to be not effective. The way I understand it, maybe you can clarify, is if somebody is picked up from an appointment or books an appointment, it's blocked off for like a couple-hour window to be able for the driver to pick that individual up, get them to their appointment, and then back. So it's really what it's doing at the end of the day is, instead of having 20 appointments, it really gives you the ability to have 10. And where I follow that up is I see, and I've had correspondence with Director Alcoca and staff, I see the accessible transit vehicles sitting for long periods of time within the community, including our back parking lot here behind the arena, for the very important hours of the day. And it just doesn't, from a public perspective, it doesn't look efficient to see that that's operating. So that Blaze app, is it something that we're going to continue to use? And do you perceive it to be a problem?
Through the chair to Councillor Potts, I don't have an answer in relation to how long or if we will continue to use the Blaze app. What I do know is that there are reasons that the specialized transit bus will wait for the next pickup, depending on the location of the next pickup, as well as how many people they're picking up. So if the Blaze software booking system doesn't foresee that the next pickup can get the specialized transit back to the Landmark Depot, which is another hub where we sit for small periods of time before we go to our next pickup, then that's where you might see it parked in a parking lot, because it's the closest location for the next pickup. In relation to the length of time, I can't speak to that, but the Blaze app does pick up. There has been a discrepancy in understanding the difference between a ride pickup and a ride drop-off. The software works very well if the correct parameter is entered in the system when scheduling a trip. For example, there is a difference between wanting to get picked up at 9 o'clock, prioritizing that pickup time, versus prioritizing a drop-off time. So if you want to be picked up to go to the doctor, for example, and your appointment is at 10 o'clock, the app needs to have the time of arrival of your doctor's appointment booked in the system, not an estimated time of pickup from your home. If those parameters aren't used correctly, it creates a bit of an interruption and not understanding what the final outcome of the ride is. It will always try to keep to the ride dependent on the time that it needs to, that you have selected. So if you want to get picked up at 9, it's going to do everything in its power to pick you up at 9. But if you're asking for a 9 o'clock pickup, but your doctor's appointment is at 10 o'clock, all of the rides around aren't going to let you get to that to that appointment at 10 o'clock, as opposed to if you've booked it for 10 o'clock drop off, it will make sure that you are arriving to that location by 10 o'clock. So as long as the system is being used correctly, it follows a set of very rigid block times, and it creates a hub for the bus to sit and wait for the next ride.
And just a last follow-up. So what I'll sum my opinion up to be is the app is very challenging and very difficult for the average user to use. And what I get from individuals who call me, a lot of them don't have the ability to use an app. So I mean, there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of challenges where the ride's being declined or however that works. And then a lot, in my last point, I think when ridership being down again for a lot of the things that are coming to me is that the contractor has been not receptive to a lot of requests. And it's been very challenging to deal. So if I'm an individual who has a flip phone, who has no ability to use an app, and try to make a phone call and be declined or no, that's where our ridership is, I think mainly, not all of it, but I think mainly going down. So there's some significant challenges that I've been obviously advocating for the last couple of years, and I'm hoping with the ability with your background and your expertise that we can get that solved. And I think that the app is probably probably one of the common denominators of an issue, and it's doing a lot of things by blocking out other riders to perceiving of the public of vehicles sitting idle in parking lots. And I just think that there's still a lot of work to be done, but I do appreciate it, and I think that app is a problem. So thanks.
Okay, I think Director Alcoca would like to speak to that. Just go right ahead.
Yeah, I'll give chance to Manager Cole to comment after my comment. Part of what we're hoping to do in the next 6 months, as we look at the services, is to re-examine that service. We can see that the accessible transit is a service in demand, that it has its customers. It's something that we can grow, and if the software has nuances or need more education or need some more streamlining, this is something we're going to be looking at as we look into the optimization phase. Dan?
Thank you, Director Alcoca. I was just going to echo some of those comments where with the Blaze software, we've seen in the past inconsistency in how the user information is being implemented into the system, which comes with changes from the service provider and staffing with the service provider. But we're comfortable and confident that with some of the optimization, some re-education of our public and our users, that software will come to a place where it is working quite properly.
Yeah, and just one last follow-up, and I can appreciate that. On Director Alcoca's comments about 6 months down the road, I fully understand, and again, I appreciate that. However, the downside is the residents have been dealing with this issue for the last 2.5, 3 years. So it comes to a point where 6 months is 6 months, but you know they've been struggling with these challenges for some time now, that we just can only hope, I guess, at this point, and our wish would be that we can get this solved to allow accessibility for everybody to be able to access this and to be efficient for it to be working. And the numbers are showing here clearly that things aren't working. So that's my comments. Thanks.
Okay, so I will turn to Director Alcoca again.
Yeah, the 6 months is a general time frame. We're not waiting 6 months. We're going to get on the job quickly, but just a general time frame, and we will take every note that you mentioned into account.
Okay, and so I will correct myself again and go to Vice Chair McCullough.
Thank you, Chair. A question to Director Coordinator Falcone, and not quite as tactical or probably as important as the issues just raised. But from an overview from 100,000 feet, when I look at this, I see that 3,000 riders have stopped using the system on weekends. Do we have any idea how they're getting where they need to go? What's the alternative, and can we learn anything from that?
Through the chair to the councillor, I am not aware of how they are getting around.
And sorry, one more question. I note that Crosstown is the only route that has had a decline, and we've gone over that in great detail. But Blink has seen a substantial increase. Do we think that is related somehow, or is there increased demand on that route that's materialized over the last 2 years?
Again, why? This is what I'm interested.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor. I don't believe there is a correlation between the decline in one and the increase in the Blink. The increase in the Blink is users have a dependable system that's scheduled, and it's going to a highly trafficked and highly required area, be that employment or tourism. The Blink has traditionally been a well-performing route.
Has anyone further wishing to speak? Go ahead, Councillor Ring.
Thank you. And this is we're talking about what Councillor McCullough just mentioned there, with the one ridership decline and one increasing. I'm not sure how Blink can increase and the other bus systems in town, whether it be Crosstown, East, West, are declining. The only reason I'm saying that is because is it not when the people use the Blink service, how are they getting down to Pine Street? Because that's where it originates from. Like you can't get picked up in any part of Collingwood. You take the regular bus to Pine Street and then take a Blink bus. So I'm just wondering how Blink can increase when a ridership to get people there is declining. Is that just a coincidence or?
Through the chair to Councillor Ring, I do know that I do also keep data for specific bus stops in the Blue Mountain area, and a lot of the ridership comes from within that area.
Follow up?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Anyone further? Hey, thank you very much for the update and excellent questions. And I too am pleased that we are moving forward with what's being proposed here. I had the opportunity, I was reading the accessibility minutes, and I noticed there was a reference to a video that's available that features Kathy Bloomfield. And I've had the opportunity, it was shared with me, and I've had the opportunity to view it, and it's a very well done video showing the use of the accessible service through phone communication, but it also outlines about the other communications. But I just was going to mention that just so the public's aware that there was that excellent video we had earlier about our snow plowing. So I'm not looking to have it shown now, but I'm just mentioning that I noticed it, and through our call today, I was able to get a copy of the link to that, and it was an interesting view. So well done on that too. So we have the item on the table with it's put on table and seconded. So unless there's more discussion, I'm going to call the matter to a vote. All those in favor? And that is passed unanimously. So great job. Thank you. At this point in time, the agenda calls for any unregistered deputations, which I don't see anyone in the audience wishing to depute, and also nobody online. So we'll move to 15.4. And that's reports and minutes of other committees and boards. And the recommendation is that the following minutes of other committees and boards be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. And that's the minutes of the Trails and Active Transportation Advisory Committee from December the 11th, 2025. The minutes of Special Collingwood Public Library Board, December 9th, 2025. Minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee, November 20th, 2025. Minutes of the Downtown Collingwood BIA Board of Management, January 5th, 2026. And minutes of Accessibility Advisory Committee, January 22nd, 2026. So I'll get a mover and a seconder and then ask if anybody wishes to speak on them before we approve them. Moved by Councillor Baines and seconded by Councillor McCullough. Vice Chair McCullough. And would anybody like to speak to any of the minutes? Go ahead, Councillor Potts.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Fryer. Just the BIA minutes from January 15th. I just had a question, we had the BIA had a deputation from a local business owner and had brought forward concerns of the on-street patios and what the process and kind of where that was at. So I didn't know, maybe through yourself to the clerk, if there was what the update is, because I think with the parking study and everything else that's kind of happening in 2026, just seeing kind of what the next steps may be, or if there's the ability to kind of discuss the street patios.
Clerk Thomas, or
Thank you, Chair, Deputy Mayor Fryer. Just to confirm, right now we're proceeding as we would normally issue licenses. Comes up in April for the applications that we receive. But I believe that there is some studies that are occurring with respect to the infrastructure department that may have impacts in the future. But I don't know what the status of that is.
CEO Skinner, go ahead.
Thank you. In the MMTP, one of the goodness, I never like to use acronyms in the public. MMTP, Master Mobility and Transportation Plan. One of the sub-studies that's included there and has been out in the public information centers to date has been about the potential to adjust parking and or do a bike lane on Hurontario. And depending on council's reaction to the staff recommendations and council's reaction to that, it will lead to whether there's going to be a design of future changes on that street, or perhaps it'll stay the way it is. And I know that the clerk's office didn't want to make further policy changes to the patios until they really had that in hand. So I would, pending any changes, I would assume that for 2026, we would proceed as we are now, and council would receive the MMTP and any subsequent decisions also in 2026 for implementation in 27.
Follow up?
Yeah, just a question I have, and maybe could there even be like an amendment to something now where, because some of the patio, I'm sure we're all receiving correspondence about the patios and taking up parking spaces and stuff, and even from some of the restaurant owners themselves. But you look at some of the restaurants that are only open certain hours, like, is there any way that there's even for this year, like an amendment to come to, unless you're going to utilize it 7 days a week or certain times? There's quite a bit of parking and stuff that's there that really I'm seeing. So I don't know, like, I don't even know where that conversation starts, but I think it's worth a conversation.
Clerk Thomas?
If the BIA board has any recommendations that they would like to provide to council to consider, that would be one approach. Another approach is, as a councillor, if you wanted to do a notice of motion yourself to make changes, I could work with you to go over what a notice of motion could look like.
Yeah, I'd agree to that. Sure, thanks.
Okay, any of the other minutes that people would like to speak to? Mayor Hamlin, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Under the Trails and Active Transportation Committee minutes, there's a mention that the members had discussed work to be done on the 11th Line Trail, and that they had asked staff when the work would be proceeding. I'm just reading here. Manager Martin confirmed there's no budget in 2026, as it was not set as a priority for 2026, but could be considered for 2027. So my question is, this is our community committee for all our everything to do with trails. And I'm wondering if there's some way they can be brought into the budget process for the recreation department when they're doing their budget and, for each year. So that, because it's sad that the committee thinks they should be working on improvements to 11th Line, but there wasn't any funds put in the budget like a month ago or 2 weeks ago or whenever. So that was my question, and I don't know if that's who that's a question for.
I had noticed that as well, and I wondered about that, and I was going to actually ask Councillor Perry as one of our representatives first. These are from December, so the trails came and talked to us, and we actually increased the budget. So can you give us an outline of if maybe 11's taken care of? Because certainly the indication from the minutes was it was important to the committee.
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard anything on any commitment to do the 11th Line Trail. The only thing I know is during that meeting that we've increased the budget for trail maintenance from, I believe it was 28,000 to 56. But as of that meeting, it hadn't passed yet. So Manager Martin couldn't make a commitment one way or another. I don't know if it's in relation to the 11th Line Trail being redone, but she couldn't make a commitment until that doubling of the budget was finalized. So where it stands now, I can't speak on it, but that's how that played out during that meeting. So I know, sorry, go ahead.
So you could come back to council after their next meeting and.
I'm going to the next meeting. I just put it in my calendar, so we'll
could
be at
be in
the
the
next
minutes
meeting.
themselves, right?
It could be, yeah.
Are you okay with that, Mayor Hamlin? Then?
Or maybe Director Cubitt would have a response.
Certainly. Director Cubitt, if you would, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I will need to consult back with Manager Martin for the answer on this particular work, but just in relation to Mayor Hamlin's comments, I will also note that the committee, our fantastic committee, has a long list of projects that we could spend years and years and years doing. But everyone recognizes that it needs to be prioritized, and this is sort of an ongoing process. But at the last meeting, there was discussion about setting a bit of a subcommittee that's going to work on 2026 and 2027 priorities. And then also, this is the sort of thing that's also going to be captured in the Parks Master Plan, the process that we're working on this year, so that it shouldn't be a surprise if we have the budget, what projects will be worked on in each budget year.
I have one follow-up, which is that's awesome. Glad to hear that. And also, it does strike me that our trails is such an important part of why tourists come to our town and why people move here. And I'll just leave it as a comment for staff to consider whether this isn't also something for our economic development team to be considering. Thank you.
Councillor Baines, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just follow up on 2 points in regard to this. Technically, is not the Trails and Active Transportation Committee a committee of council or reports to council, not to staff? And secondly, Councillor Perry, are you not a member but not the council designate appointee? Is that not correct?
No, I just go because of my obviously interest in the trails, but I go as a, can't remember the technical term, but and I don't vote on anything. I just voice my opinion when I feel needed, but very, very little. But I just go to observe so I can learn this stuff, obviously.
So I suppose my question is there a reason council hasn't appointed its own designate to the Trails and Active Transportation Committee?
I will, and Councillor Doherty also attends, so, but go ahead, Councillor Perry.
I kind of knew this question was coming. I have talked to the clerk about this. I was going to bring a notice of motion, but there's a big component of the MMTP. Yeah, I got it right. Plan that the clerk filled me in that there's a big component of the trails in that plan. We'll see if they recommend a council member on that committee. And if not, it's something that we can as a council. Am I correct with that, clerk?
And I'll go to Clerk Thomas. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Mayor Fryer. Just to confirm, it's the committee board governance review process that it will be included in, and it is a project that we're working on right now. But I'd also like to point out that in your very first budget presentation, in your budget package with the staff report, there is a full appendices in there from a lot of work that our deputy clerk Dahl had put together, working with each committee to provide input into the budget process. That again was considered by staff to be included in the first budget, and if their requests weren't supported by staff, they were still fully identified should council wanted to include any of those items. So it was quite an exercise because we haven't done this in a few years, but they were included.
Do you have follow-up, Councillor Baines? I think the only thing I would add is just as I say, Councillor Doherty attends. I do believe that we all recognize how important this committee is and the contributions that they make to it. And I think they know they can get to council when they need to and through staff and that. But if the recommendation comes for an official member to attend, then we can make a decision about that. But I do.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to clarify. I believe we approved $50,000 from the MAT or something in that range to go towards additional trails budget.
Yes, we did. We had approved a lower amount and they made deputation and it was increased at that time.
Okay.
And I think that's Councillor Perry's point, is that we're not really sure how they're going to designate that out. And I'll turn to CEO Skinner then.
Just as a comment, many of our committees, they do have a strong role in budget, and every year we ask them not only to provide their thoughts for budget early in the year, but we also ask them to give their, end of year, what they believe's been accomplished, and, by themselves and as their influence on staff or council. So in talking with the clerk about the committee board governance review, one of the things that we really think about is who are they advising? And in many cases, they're advising both. If it's an operational issue, how is something working? Are people satisfied with the service on an individual basis as opposed to a system-wide? That's an advice for staff. So they're working with us sometimes to help us to develop policies or to understand things. And then sometimes they're providing advice that's at policy strategy level, and that's what they're advising to council. Do they think that your parking policy should be updated to enable something to happen, or your maintenance policies to do better service somewhere? So there's quite a bit of that thinking around, who are they advising and what are the paths that they have in the meeting or subsequent to the meeting, for example, in committee meetings, committee of the whole or council meetings, when they can get back to council. So we do value those folks, and we like to use them to support both roles.
Anything further on the reports? Do not see any. We have a mover and a seconder, so all those in favor? And that is approved unanimously. We'll now move to old and deferred business, and we have item 15.5.1. It's C 2026-01, election, use of corporate resources policy. And this was referred back from January 19th for an additional committee of the whole review. And I'm going to turn to Clerk Amos to introduce first, and I believe Deputy Clerk Call is going to be participating as well.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fryer. I'll just note that maybe I'll save my additional commentary until after the Deputy Clerk finishes her comments, because she may cover it, because there was additional information that was shared with Council this afternoon as a follow-up to some Council questions.
Go ahead, Deputy Clerk.
Great. Good afternoon, committee. Further to the presentation provided to you on January 19th, today I'll be highlighting some further updates to the use of corporate resources and election CAIM activities policy since our last presentation. And as provided earlier, the purpose of this policy is to provide provisions related to campaign contributions, whether in the form of money, goods, or services, that are specific to the use of municipal resources for election-related purposes as required by the Municipal Election Act. Committee of the Whole considered the staff report and updated policy at its meeting held January 19th, amending the definition of clerk to clearly define a designate for the purpose of the policy being a legislative services employee that has been appointed as a deputy returning officer or election official. Committee also requested the policy return to Committee of the Whole for further discussion and consideration, which we're doing here today. Since the January 19th meeting, there has been further discussion amongst the Ontario Elections Working Group to the enforcement mechanisms of the policies, as well as concerns raised at the Committee of the Whole meeting with regard to the role of the Integrity Commissioner during an election, and to provide some further clarity to this aspect of the policy to when and how an Integrity Commissioner can act on a complaint. The Municipal Act provides that starting on nomination day, which this election is August 21st, and ending on voting day, which is October 26th, no requests are to be made to the Integrity Commissioner for an inquiry about whether a member of council has contravened the code of conduct applicable to the member. The integrity commissioner shall not report to a municipality about whether, in his or her opinion, a member of council has contravened the code of conduct applicable to the member. And the municipality shall not consider whether to impose penalties referred to in the Municipal Act on a member of council during this time period. So in terms of enforcement, the clerk has always been the enforcement body on this policy, reviewing any complaints received. Most likely, it usually ends up in us calling the candidate or a third-party advertiser to say what the contribution is. And in most cases, there's always been compliance to that. Alternatively, could be reported to the Election Compliance Audit Committee. A court application could commence, or call to the Ombudsman's office might be beneficial in that case as well. Other amendments to the policy since we've last spoken is the rewording of item 12.3 as requested by staff, which reads current or former members of council shall not use information that is not available to the public that they may still have available or access to that was provided as part of their role and duties on council in their campaign. A rewording of the third bullet under item 14.2 to provide that the director, manager, or supervisor report any perceived contraventions of the policy to the clerk, and the review cycle of the policy to reflect any updates to the policy that are recommended by staff to come before council for consideration. And I'd also like to emphasize that this policy is not to preclude a member of council from performing their duties as a council member or prohibit them from representing the interests of their constituents on the election or during an election period. All proposed changes to the policy made after January 19th are highlighted in yellow on the draft policy attached to your agenda, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have this evening.
Okay, so we will read in the recommendation and then proceed with the mover and seconder, and then have discussion, and we can ask questions as deputy clerk, or actually I'll just turn to Clerk Amos and just make sure that if there's any additional that she wants to add first.
Certainly, as noted in the procedural bylaw, if we do share information with members of council that is outside of the meeting process, we share it publicly as well. So the additional information that was shared with council today was regarding the question with social media or website accounts. And if, there's current members that use them. And I've confirmed that at this time we don't. However, in the future, if someone wanted to fund, they could use their professional development and discretionary expense account for such funds. But the policy does address that, should that become a question in the future. And there was also a question about the role of department heads, managers, supervisors, which I think Deputy Clerk Dull touched on, but also with the final question of the ability to delegate a third party or an independent individual to undertake investigations or remedial actions. So right now in our conversations that we've had with the provincial election working group, that it is the clerk in almost all municipalities that we've done research in that is responsible for it. However, the council can totally choose to retain a lawyer, an accountant, or other independent body should you wish to have an independent third party conduct the investigations.
Thank you very much. So the recommendation is that staff report C 2026-01, updated use of corporate resources and election campaign activities policy be received, and that council approved the updated use of corporate resources and election campaign activities policy as attached here to as Appendix A. And I have a mover by Councillor Jeffrey and a seconder by Councillor Perry, and I will open it to the floor. And Councillor Jeffrey, you go right ahead.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank the clerk and the deputy clerk for all their help with my questions, which I think they addressed. And I know I certainly wouldn't recommend going to a third party in terms of that. My only observation in terms of department heads and managers and supervisors was that really the accountability is with the election persons. And so they're responsible for sure for educating and for directing what they might perceive to be misstep, but not to be the final. So I like where we landed, and I appreciate that council approved taking the time to have one more meeting to review it. So I support the amendments as they were made and the policy as it's been distributed. Thank you.
Did anyone else wish to speak? Go ahead, Mayor Hamlin.
Yeah, on the matter that Councillor Jeffrey just mentioned, I do have a concern about paragraph 14, and this sets out the role and responsibility of staff. And it is section 14.2 that says department heads, managers, and supervisors. One of their roles and responsibilities is to report any perceived contraventions to the policy to the clerk. And I just feel that is burdening our department heads, managers, and supervisors with something that isn't really within their purview, that they might not feel comfortable doing. And certainly, they might not even be aware of some of the people who are running, but are more, obviously they'll be able to see more closely what existing council is doing. But I think we're obviously less likely to breach this because we know about it. I just would like to recommend that, and I guess I'm making an amendment if I could, Chair, to delete the role of department heads, managers, and supervisors in 14.2, to delete the last bullet, reporting any perceived contraventions to the policy to the clerk.
And would there be a seconder for that? Vice Chair McCullough has seconded, so I'll open up the amendment for discussion, and Councillor Baines and then Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you.
I should have asked if Mayor Hamlin wanted to speak first on that.
Yes, I also wanted to say that this is something that the clerk answered today. And if I understood her answer correctly, it's always been the clerk or designate who reports the contraventions. And maybe I would just ask through you, Chair, if that's, if this is a change, putting it to the department heads, supervisors, and managers.
For Clerk Omas or for CO?
Yeah, for Clerk Omas. Thank you.
Clerk Omas, are you understanding the question?
Thank you, Chair, Deputy Mayor Fryer. I believe the question is, was that a requirement in the policy previously?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
No, I'll clarify that the roles were not included in the previous policy, and they have been added to this policy.
And previous, was it the clerk then or designate?
It was the clerk, correct.
Okay, so my amendment would be to go back to the previous policy. Okay, and I don't need to say anything else.
So I'll just clarify with Vice Chair McCullough that he's still seconding that. Okay. And I do have Councillor Baines and then Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you. Through the chair to the clerk on this specific point, because it says on this point, are responsible for reporting any perceived contraventions of the policy to the clerk. What are the implications of, or would be, a department head, manager, or supervisor for not having done that if they were aware of it?
Clerk Omas?
Through the Deputy Mayor, I would confirm that they would have to be aware of the what they suspect to be a contravention to have any sort of concern to be not fulfilling their duties in accordance with this policy. And again, we do have a code of conduct for members of staff that they are to adhere to any municipal policies and procedures that relate to them.
No follow-up. Okay. Councillor Jeffrey and then to Vice Chair McCullough.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So no, I'm not going to support the amendment because I think the whole point of this is the coverage and the ability and the accountability. And I think the clerk can't be everywhere. And I think if it's part of the department heads and supervisors and managers' role to tell her if they've seen something not up to them to follow it up or decide, but up to the clerk to decide it. But it has to be brought to her attention first. And they're the best people to see anything. I'm not expecting anything, but I think if you're going to have a policy, you need to cover all the areas where infractions could occur, and the people should feel the responsibility to report it to the clerk.
Vice Chair.
Well, thank you, Chair. I'm curious, is there some history or some incident that has prompted the change to the policy? Did it need to be strengthened based on past experience, or where this initiated?
That may be a question for Councillor Jeffrey. I believe you're the one who asked for that to be included, or would we turn to? Okay, sorry.
No, I didn't ask for it to be included.
Okay.
Thank you. So just to clarify, the question is related to the additional piece about policy administration roles and responsibilities. So the policy itself, we currently look at all of our election related policies before the election happens. This is one of the policies that were under review, and there is a repository of best practices and information sharing that was happening with the provincial election group. This seemed to be a consistent recommended update to various policies that we have implemented together with other municipalities.
Follow up. Thank you, Chair. Through you to Clerk Almas. So this is a best practice that you're seeing in other municipalities? Okay, thank you.
Anyone further? Mayor Ham?
I just have a question.
Just making sure nobody else hasn't, and you go ahead then.
Yeah, I'm interested to know who the group is. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through the chair to Mayor Hamlin. This group consists of clerks, election workers. You have it from municipalities all across Ontario. I think on our last call, we had over 200 people participating. So it's just an informal working group that we put together to help support each other through an election.
Okay, well, I didn't know that. Thank you. So I'm going to withdraw my amendment.
Anything further from anyone? Okay, the comment I'm going to make, I don't support the amendment. I do feel that line is important, and I look at it in conjunction with 14.3, which is about members responsible for ensuring that staff who support the member in the performance of their duties, or any such staff whose work is directed by the member are complying with the policy. I've been toying around my own amendment around that particular clause, but I like to see that other one left in there, and maybe there won't be a need for something in 14.3. So I'm not going to support the amendment at this point in time. Is there any more discussion about the amendment? Oh, I'm sorry. I did not catch that. I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
Yeah. Deputy Clerk Paul convinced me.
Thank you. And that's probably what Councillor Ring was going to point out to me. So we have the recommendation as put forward. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. And now we can turn to 15. Oh, thank you, Deputy Clerk Dahl. And thank you, Clerk Almas. 15.6 is other business. Is there any other business? Not seeing any indication. Are there any notices of motion? Item 15.7. Go ahead, Councillor Potts.
Just in regards to the patios and I can work with, we'll get the proper wording, but I'll provide, I guess, preliminary notice.
Is okay with that? Yep. And the motion is to rise from committee of the whole. Recommendation to the council herein rise from committee of the whole and return to the regular council meeting. And a mover and a seconder, Vice Chair McCullough and Councillor Perry, all those in favor. And that is unanimous. And I turn to Mayor Hamlin.
Thank you. The last motion before us, before the adjournment, is that bylaw number 2026-006, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council held February 2nd, 2026, be enacted and passed the second day of February 2026. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Ring, seconded by Councillor Perry. All those in favor? That's unanimous. And we have an adjournment request from Councillor Jeffrey. All those in favor? That's again unanimous. And thank you very much, everyone.